相棒。 I'm so small. What the heck? Okay, there we go. I was like this. should I present the whole thing like this? That'd be kind of funny, actually. Alright, there we go. Hello, guys. How are you today? Let me get the MS Paint file open. There we go. It's saved from last time. I have a clip from the show to show you guys before we start, but it's the scene where Milchick gets the paintings, and then Natalie is there also. Someone was talking about how great the acting was there, and I was like, true! It's a really good video, so we will watch that first. I'm tired. No, I'm tired too. I want to sleep. I just want to sleep. But it's okay. We'll just chill. We'll just chill here. I'm gonna do 11 Deep Space stream soon, so that's another chill stream. Cause the new event they have, the mini game, is so fun. It's my favorite type of mini game that they do. It's like sorting items and stuff. What's it called? The something in match? I forgot what it's called. But like you match items 3 in a row or something. It's like a packaging mini game, and I love it whenever they put it in. I'm like, oh, I love this. It's like crack. Lads, woo! So yeah, I played a little bit of it yesterday. And I was like, man, I love this. I should do it on stream. I just love their packaging mini games in general. They're so fun. I'm playing around with the mouth on the model. Anyways, Severance Season 2 episode. We were on 7, I believe. No, 7 was Chikai Bardo. Man, that episode was... Ugh. That was awful. Episode was truly something. Oh, the next episode, episode 8 is very short. Yeah, poor Gemma. Oh, actually terrible. The miscarriage, being unable to have kids, and then being taken away and like tortured. What the heck? It's so sad. And it's like this time they were so close together. All this time, just one floor apart. And then they put Miss Casey in the same place too, just to test them. Terrible. Okay, there we go. I was fixing something. Alright, let me get the clip of Milchick and Milchick and Natalie. Oh my god, I keep hiccuping. Milchick and Natalie. Where's the clip? Where is this clip? I bookmarked too many things. This is terrible. I think I sent the link to myself because I knew I would forget. Yeah, I did. Okay. Thank you, past Aki, for not believing in future Aki. and sending the link to yourself. Alright. We're gonna watch this scene in Severance. It's some guy explaining it. The channel is the Vincat. And I really like this scene. So, we'll see. Once again, it's the scene where Milchick receives paintings from the board. And it's basically just Cure Egan, but repainted as like a black man. And him and Natalie have a bit of a tense moment, trying to like relate their experiences to each other. More so on Milchick's part. Natalie does kind of give him some sort of comfort. It's not the right word, but like trying to have a connection of some kind. But it's more so on Milchick's part. But you can see Natalie kind of breaking character, because we've never seen her not smiling or being like the HR person. Until this scene, she kind of like breaks character a little bit, stumbles a bit. Alright, let me share the screen. This scene is so good. YouTube? Okay, watch this video. It's called The Best Scene in Severance. I'll let you be the judge, but it is a really good scene. Is this positioned right? Yeah, okay, let's just watch. Desktop audio. Let me know if the sound is okay, by the way. Or if it's too loud.
Best scene in the entire show. And no, Season 2 of Severance just ended, and I want to talk about what I think is the best scene in the entire show. And no, it's not the scene where Mark and Helly run under the red lights, it's not the marching band scene with Mr. Milchick, and it's not even the Season 1 finale where Mark screams, "She's alive!" The scene that I think is best in all of Severance is in Season 2, Episode 3. And it's the scene where Natalie presents the inclusively recanonicalized portraits of Keir to Mr. Milchick. This is one of the most well-acted and thought-provoking scenes I've ever witnessed in any show ever, let alone just Severance. And it truly reinforces why the layers in the storytelling in Severance are just next level. Now,
dude, her face. Her face when she's walking around him. Freedom!
this is one of the most well-acted and thought-provoking scenes I've ever witnessed in any show ever, let alone just Severance. And it truly reinforces why the layers in the storytelling
she plays the role
are
so
just
well.
Next level. Now, I don't imagine you'd have clicked on this video without already having seen Season 2, but let me set the stage for you just in case. And of course, spoiler warning if that isn't already obvious. Mr. Milchick is getting congratulated by the board because he convinced Mark, Dylan, and Irving's Audis to all rejoin the Severed Floor to help Mark complete Cold Harbor. He also recently took over Miss Cobell's role, so on the outside, things would appear to be going well for Mr. Milchick. But on the inside, Mr. Milchick has been dealing with crisis after crisis, and Mark has been making his life a living hell. Prior to Mr. Milchick bringing back the OG crew, Mark had an outburst at work where he phoned the board and demanded that his friends come back. So the board gives in and grants this wish, and Mr. Milchick has to deal with the fact that his status as an authority figure is waning, given that his subordinate is now going around him to get what he wants. And all of these emotions are swirling together as he walks into his office, where Natalie, the board representative, is waiting for him. This in itself catches him by surprise, and he immediately has to switch gears, as dealing with the board is almost performative in nature. If you've seen even a second of this show, you know that anyone who works at Lumen doesn't speak or behave like your typical member of society. They're verbose, they're eerie, and they emphasize and value different things.
Weirdos!
You can't quite tell whether they're just like this at their core, or if they put on this show for the innies, since the innies don't know what people value or emphasize on the outside world. That's why these rare glimpses of two employees speaking with each other are so interesting, because they let you into the inner workings of Lumen and you can start to piece together the mystery. And this particular scene is brilliant, because this is when you start to realize just how much tension there is between the leadership at Lumen. It's not just the Severed Floor feeling the pressure. It's everyone. Just the way Natalie introduces the board creates a feeling of uneasiness in the room. And if you've seen the show, you know that the board always remains silent, and they essentially speak through Natalie. Mr. Milchick starts to express his appreciation for his quote-unquote promotion, when Natalie cuts him off with a raised finger and says,
"The board says you're welcome."
This little moment says so much, and what I take from this is that the board doesn't really care why Mr. Milchick is thankful, only that he is. They're taking his pulse, essentially, after everything that's happened. Natalie point-blank asks Mr. Milchick if he feels appreciated on behalf of the board. board, and Mr. Milchick awkwardly just has to stand there and say that he does. This is a clear display of power, with the board subtly forcing the answer they want to hear. Immediately after, Natalie moves toward the gift that the board authorized for Mr. Milchick, and says that the board desires for him to feel connected to Lumen's history. She describes the contents of the box as inclusively recanonicalized paintings, intended to help Mr. Milchick see himself and hear. Mr. Milchick moves to open the box, and he and Natalie share what I can only describe as apprehensive eye contact. Natalie then paces around Mr. Milchick in an eerie shot with her eyes fixed on him, awaiting his reaction. And when he finally does open the box, we see a number of historically revised paintings of Kier as a black man. Of course, if this happened in the real world, it would be viewed by any major company as an inexcusable offense, and whoever was responsible would be promptly fired, rightfully so. But in this show, at this company that functions more like a cult than a business, the reaction is very different. Tremel Tillman, who plays Mr. Milchick, beautifully acts his character's reaction by simply saying, "Oh my." And because the people at this company are beyond screwed up, you genuinely don't know at first if he's appalled by these paintings or if he's actually moved by them in some kind of backwards way of thinking. There are also thoughts running through your head as the viewer about Lumen's intent behind these paintings. Are they meant as an actual gift, or are they meant as another display of power to force Milchick to express his appreciation even in the face of something that is overtly racist? And I remember when I first saw this scene, my head was spinning trying to piece together the reactions of Mr. Milchick and Natalie alike. And the next line of dialogue that Natalie says just speaks volumes about the level of control Lumen has over their employees. She says, and I quote, "The board wishes to express that I, Natalie, also received the same gift upon receipt of my current position, and found it extremely moving." Every ounce of that line is controlling. First off, it's made known that the board wishes to express this sentiment, not Natalie herself, and it's phrased as such. They say that she got the same gift upon receipt of her current position, and receipt implies that she was given her role generously by the board, instead of really earning it. And Natalie specifically doesn't say, "I found it extremely moving." Her sentence structure makes it sound like the board just wishes to express that she found it extremely moving. They are making her say this. It's written so intentionally. And I imagine she phrases it in this way so she can take what little power she has back and not implicate those feelings as her own. Mr. Milchick doesn't know what to say, but to not stir the pot, he tries to piece together a response about why he's grateful to see himself represented in this way. But he doesn't even get through the sentence when Natalie tells him that the board has concluded the call. As soon as they heard he was grateful, they left. This was all seemingly just a checkbox to them, and as soon as they got what they wanted, they moved on. And when Natalie tells Milchick that the call has ended, it's the first time she stumbles over her words. When she's speaking for the board, she speaks eloquently, but when she's able to speak freely, she's less sure about what to say. It's a slight touch, but it is so powerful. Then Sydney Cole Alexander, who plays Natalie, gives one of the most chilling performances I've ever seen.
She's so pretty.
When she and Mr. Milchick lock eyes after the board leaves the call. Her typically unrelenting smile and wide eyes show a tinge of pain behind them. They falter just ever so slightly, but this slight crack in the surface is all the audience needs to understand the layers of pain that both of these characters must be feeling in this moment. It seems as though she wants to tell him that she understands his pain and that she's felt all the same pain before, but she can't. Even though the board isn't listening in that moment, she's still afraid of acting out against the people making her feel this way. But she pulls herself back together, cracks what I can only describe as a fake smile, and tells Mr. Milchick, "Congratulations, Seth," before swiftly exiting the room. I take her using his first name as her way of trying to connect to him on a personal level after everything that's transpired, without being able to say the things she really wants to say. But that's it. A masterclass of acting, storytelling, and mystery. This scene paints such a clear picture of the dynamics of Lumen. It makes you feel for Natalie and Mr. Milchick, two characters who weren't the subject of much sympathy before this moment. I just wanted to take a moment to praise this scene, these actors, and everyone involved with making Severance. I truly believe it's the best show that's been put on TV within the last 5-10 years, and I only hope that it keeps its momentum until the end. Let me know your favorite scene from Severance.
Look, it's Astarion in the background. I just noticed. The brilliance of Tremel Tillman, Seth Milchick. We're gonna have to watch that after we finish the brilliance of Milchick. But yeah, that scene is just really good. And she plays her role so well. Like the creepy HR person and the smile that she has like trained. It's so good. It's so good! Alright, now we're moving on to episode 8, which is only 37 minutes long. Much shorter than the other episodes, so should not take too long. Let me take a sip of water. I woke up dehydrated like a raisin because my sleep is not good. I also had like some kind of stress dream and I like don't know why. I had like a stress dream where I was being hunted down and chased like the entire time, and I woke up like panicking. I woke up mid like I got discovered and I was like trying to run away. And like running away, like dashing down the stairs, and then I woke up and I was like, oh my god. I forgot what the whole plot was about though, but yay, stress dreams! Woo! Okay, episode 8 is called Sweet Vitriol. And Cobell haters will be sad to know, but this is a Cobell focused episode. So I'm just gonna put her photo in the middle. And episode 8. So remember a few episodes back when I was talking about how Cobell was just driving around and she like fell asleep in her car and then she woke up and she kept driving again? And we were like, where the heck is she going? So she's just driving. She drives along a winding mountain road to a place called Salt's Neck, which I think they showed a few episodes ago when she was driving. There was a sign that said like Salt Neck up ahead or something. Maybe I'm misremembering. But yeah. So she's driving and then it cuts to her brushing her teeth on the side of the road. She notices someone in a broken down trailer nearby inhaling something called ether, and then her phone rings. It's Devin that's calling her, remember in the last episode? Devin was like, oh, we should call Miss Selvig. And then Ragabi was like, hell no, I'm out of here. Yeah, so that was the phone call. And Devin's calling Cobell, but she doesn't answer the phone. She just puts it away and then she gets back in her car. And then there's a cafe and there's people eating inside. They're talking to each other, and then one of the people there gives ether to the other person and then goes to the counter and starts talking to the waitress. Yada yada yada. So we're like, okay, so all the people here are hooked on to this drug called ether. They're like casually giving it to each other at cafes and stuff. They're inhaling it on the side of the road. So the people that live here are obviously addicted to the substance, right? And Cobell pulls up to the cafe. It's called Drippy Pot Cafe, by the way, which is like kind of cute. But she pulls up to the Drippy Pot and goes inside. Everyone turns around to look at her, and then she sits down. And the guy that was giving ether to someone else, his name's Hampton. And he comes over and asks if she wants coffee. And she says she doesn't. And he's like, well, the tables are only for paying customers. And if that's the case, she's like, okay, if that's the case, then you buy me a cup of coffee. So she gets a cup from him, he pours her a cup, and she says that the town is older than she remembered. So you're like, oh, this is where she's from. And he says the market readjustment caused that. So you're like, market readjustment? What? What's happening? Financial crash? And then Cobell says, I need a favor from you, but I can't tell you here. So she asks him to meet her at the factory and then leaves. And you're like, the factory? What's happening? And Hampton asks someone else to close up the cafe for him, and then he leaves to meet her. And I'm gonna... Oh, by the way, I got new keycaps, and they're so cute. Do you hear it? Wait, let me show a picture of it. I'm so happy with it. It's so cute. Check this out. Look how cute it looks. So this is what I'm typing on right now. so blocky. Wow! Right? It's so cute and blocky. I love it. And all the caps are rounded. I really like this kind of shape, actually. How cute! There's like the little bears. And the arrow keys are like the stars. So cute. And then there's page up and page down. That's pupil. A pupil. It's so cute. I love it. I love it so much. I'm obsessed with my keyboard right now. Okay. Enough of that. Alright, I was looking up a picture of him. Hampton. So this is Hampton. They make him smaller. I'm gonna make him really small because he's only in this episode. So that's Hampton. And we can assume it's someone that Cobell knows. I just heard my mom sneeze. It's so funny because she sneezes so loud and I like make no noise when I sneeze. I heard her go hat. Anyways, bless her. Thank you. Bless you, mama. So yeah, Hampton leaves the cafe, and Cobell asks to meet him at the factory. So we're like, okay, so this town seems to be where Cobell came from, cause she's like, oh, it's older than I remember, right? There's some kind of financial problem. Everyone here does seem to be living more frugally. Everything looks really run down, and it seems like everyone is also hooked on this thing called ether. So then, and also we know that Lumen basically owns everything. So you can kind of connect the dots of like, oh, Lumen probably has power over this place, and the factory probably has something to do with Lumen. So then, Hampton drives out to the ether factory. So the factory, turns out they're producing ether there, which is also what everyone is hooked on. So I was like, oh, great. And he parks, and then they both get out of their cars to meet each other. And he asks her, do you know how messed up it is for you to ask me to come here? And she asks him to drive her to Sissy's. So you're like, who's Sissy, right? He says no. And he says if they are watching the house, they will recognize her car. So you're like, oh, then Lumen, right? If Lumen's watching her house, then they'll recognize her car. So it confirms like, okay, Lumen is very present in this town. And he asks her how much trouble she's in, and she's like, I'm in enough trouble. And Cobell assumes that Sissy still lives by the same place that she remembered. And she says that Sissy is a pariah. And if you don't know what a pariah is, let me get the exact definition. An outcast, a social pariah is like an outcast. So that's what it means basically. The person she's looking for is an outcast, and still lives where she remembers. So then, Cobell says that Hampton can stay in the truck, but she just needs to get something from there. And he asks her why he should help her with anything. And she says it's because we were friends once and old colleagues lift each other up. And then he tells her, like, colleagues, it was child labor. So you're like, I mean, least surprising thing ever, Lumen using child labor. But it's like, oh my god, so Cobell has been working for Lumen since she was a kid. Like they always talk about how she's like part of this cult, right? Or like, she grew up Lumen, but like she legitimately grew up Lumen. Like she's been working for them since she was a kid in the ether factory with this guy. So they were all kids working in the factory producing ether, and now they're all hooked on ether. So messed up. So then, Cobell reminds him of the story in Cure's, like, whatever, autobiography, Bible, whatever it is, of Cure and someone named Emojine meeting each other at the ether mill. And then she says that she knows Hampton is using ether and that he can help her or not, but she won't be his punching bag. So you're like, damn. She really was like, by the way, I know you're on drugs. So then, Hampton eventually drives to Sissy's place with Cobell hidden in his truck bed. And her phone rings again, and it's Devin, and she ignores the phone call again. And then when they get to Sissy's, Hampton tells Cobell that it's all clear, no one's watching, and helps her climb out of the truck. She walks up to the door, and Hampton tells her to tell Sissy to drop dead. So it's like, oh, dude, is Sissy someone they all hate? And then Sissy, also known as Celestine Cobell. Let me put a picture of her. So yeah, she's related to her. If you couldn't tell. She looks very much like your classic old lady that lives in a cult. Put her here. Hell no. Okay, so Sissy opens the door as Cobell approaches, and she's like, she also speaks very like cult-like. She's like, "You're not welcome here." And then Cobell ignores her and walks inside anyway. Cobell immediately goes upstairs and finds her old bedroom completely bare and stripped of all its belongings. So Sissy just like completely got rid of all her belongings. Sissy threatens to call the police, and she doesn't want Hampton there either. And she calls out his addiction to ether. And then Cobell reminds Sissy that she's the one who got him addicted in the first place. So you're like, also, what a nasty, nasty lady being like, get out of here, you're dirty and addicted to ether. And it's like, she's the one that got them addicted. Bruh. So then, Sissy looks out the window at Hampton and asks Cobell to come down and tell her why she's here. Cobell tries to go into another room, but it's locked, so she ends up going downstairs, and she asks Sissy what she did with all of her things. And Sissy is like, oh, I sold them all to the poor. And Cobell is like, well, they weren't yours to sell. But Sissy is like, it's my house. And then Cobell asks if anyone has been there in the room, and Sissy is like, no one comes here. But the room remains empty. Cobell asks what phone call, Cobell asks about, like if anyone has called the house. And Sissy says that Mr. Drummond called. And you don't remember Mr. Drummond is this guy who's always in the board meetings with Helena. And he did a performance review with Milchick, where he was like, you use too many big words, and you also put the paper clip on backwards. Anyways. Where was I? So, yeah. Sissy is like, oh, Mr. Drummond called before. And Cobell's like, oh, what was he saying? Did he want to say anything? And Sissy is like, why? Did you do something wrong? What did you do? And Cobell pulls out the phone cord so that no one else can call, and then she asks for the key to her mother's room. And Sissy says the room will stay shut until everyone who remembers Charlotte sits with Kier. So basically, like, okay, we're keeping that room locked until we all die. Which is like, oh, who's gonna open the door? But yeah. And then Cobell again is like, key, give me the key. And Sissy is like, I refuse to fight with you. And Cobell asks Sissy what her mother's last words were. And Cobell is like, oh, what was my mother's last words? Because I know that she didn't say anything after you pulled her tube out. So you're like, ah! And then Sissy slaps Cobell in the face. And Sissy says that she had gratitude in her eyes to be freed from her suffering. So she thinks she, like, basically kills Cobell's mom as an act of, like, mercy. Because she's like, oh, she had suffering in her eyes before I pulled the tube out. And then she was grateful that she's freed. And this is so messed up. And then Sissy was like, well, if your mother had been a believer, she would have found solace in the 9. And you're like, what the heck is the 9? And Sissy is like, it's easy for you to say you didn't have to hear her wheezing every day like I did. And Cobell is like, that's not true. I would have looked after my mom and I would have cared for her myself if I hadn't been at school all day. And Sissy is like, the school is where you belonged. And then Cobell, like, laments not being able to even say goodbye to her mom. But Sissy tells her that her studies were more important. And that Mr. Egan saw a cure in Cobell. And there was no apprentice more industrious than Cobell. So, again, they see Cure Egan as, like, some kind of Jesus. And Mr. Egan, we can assume, is one of his heirs. So they're basically like, oh, we saw Jesus in Cobell. We saw God in you, Cobell. And the no apprentice more industrious than Cobell is like, okay, so she was probably the most hardworking kid they had. The most hardworking child labor. But yeah. And then Sissy is like, you were so gifted and now you're nothing but a disappointment. And Cobell asks Sissy what Drummond told her. And Sissy tells her to go back and beg Lumen for forgiveness and that the Egans will grant it to her. And Cobell doesn't believe that because she's like, no, they will not show me any mercy. Like, I'm done for. So she asks again where the key to her mom's room is. And Sissy looks down at her hands where she's like rubbing a stone. And you're like, okay, that's kind of weird. Cool, I guess. But then you remember that in the previous episode, when Gemma was getting her checkup and they were asking her how she was doing, she also had stones in her hands. So you're like, is this related, or is it just like a soothing tactic that Sissy's doing? But then Cobell goes upstairs and Sissy is like, don't bother, you'll only find pain up there. Yeah, they're all weird. Consensus. Cobell goes into Sissy's room, looks through everything, dumps out a box on the dresser, and then she looks through a cabinet, frantically searching for the key to her mom's room. Finally, she finds it, and she goes into her mom's room. Her mom's name is Charlotte. And in the room, Cobell looks around, and then she sees the old ventilator and tubes that her mom was on. So she hooks up the tubes to an old ventilator, and then she lies down on her mom's bed, and then she puts the tube in her mouth and starts breathing in the ether inside and crying, and she's just sobbing and like inhaling ether on the bed and crying, like curls up, and yeah, what the? It's like, oh my god. Like, I knew she was traumatized, but like watching like this usually really, really strong character that we've seen throughout the show, right? She's really strong-willed, very, very mean, you know? She stands up to everyone. She's not afraid of Lumen. So watching this character, exhibit such bizarre and mentally ill symptoms and just like break down to the core of her trauma. Like now she's just acting like a little girl, you know, that like lost her mom. And you're like, oh my god. Yeah, it's getting weirder every second. So then Cobell sleeps into the night on the bed. And she startles awake when Hampton opens the door and comes in. And Sissy is not happy that Hampton came into the house to get her. But they ignore her, and Cobell asks if Hampton saw something, and he said he didn't, but it's cold in his truck and he needs to get back soon. And Cobell is like, I have to find it. And Hampton is like, what do you mean? What do you need to find? But she doesn't say anything, and she asks for a minute to think. And Hampton is like, you know, I also liked your mom. And then Cobell is like, you barely knew her. And he says all I needed to know was that she hated Lumen more than I did. And at least she doesn't have to stay with Sissy anymore. And then Hampton looks at Cobell and asks her if she wants to get high. And he pulls out a bottle of ether and pours some on a cloth, which he inhales from. And he starts laughing, and then she like looks at it and she takes it also and does the same thing. And she says, oh my gosh, I haven't done this since I was 8. You're like, what? Oh my god, these poor people. Yeah. It was, oh my god. They got Cobell working in the factory at the age of 8. So yeah, they're laughing and like getting high together. And then Hampton jokingly asks Cobell if she's ready to man the vat for 10 hours. So he's like making a reference to their childhood labor. He's like, oh, are you ready to man the vat for 10 hours? And then Cobell tells him that she finds it shameful that he sells ether, like the same drug that they were hooked on as kids. And then they have a weird moment together where they like lean in together and then kiss. And you're like, what is happening? I'm done, man. Yeah, what is happening? And then Hampton tells her that he doesn't think what she's looking for is there. And Cobell says that she's sure it is because she knows that Sissy wouldn't throw it away. And this whole time, it's just like, what the heck is she looking for? Anyways, Cobell eventually walks outside with Hampton following behind her. And she finds a storm shelter on the property and looks around. She finds a book it's from a place called Myrtle Egan School for Girls, which you can assume she went to. And she opens it and she finds a page about her getting the James Egan Wintertide Fellowship and being valedictorian. Now, who else is doing the Wintertide Fellowship? Miss Huang! Get that child out of there! Free her! So we can also assume that Miss Huang is going to... Well, we can guess maybe she's going to the same school. Myrtle Egan School for Girls. Because that's where the fellowship is from, I assume. And we find out that Cobell was literally like... Miss Huang is a younger Cobell, kind of. Like, Miss Huang is currently going through the Jamie Egan Wintertide Fellowship, which is what Cobell, it was just the same fellowship that Cobell did, and she got valedictorian in. And she works in the factory. And also, Jamie Egan is Helena's father, if anyone forgot. So she closes the book and she continues searching, and she finds a statue bust of Jamie Egan given to her as a reward for the fellowship, which is like so nuts. Me, when I complete a fellowship and I just get a statue bust of whoever the CEO is. Anyway, she opens the bottom of the bust and pulls out a rolled up book. She exits the shelter and tells Hampton to get the truck ready. And ignores his question when he's like, oh, did you find what you were looking for? So then Cobell goes back to Sissy's house, and she tells Sissy that she's leaving and to not tell Lumen that she was ever there. And Sissy says, I would never lie to a steward of the Egan's. So it's like, oh, okay, she's gonna snitch anyway. And Cobell tells her that Lumen destroyed Salt's neck, and Sissy owes them nothing. And then Sissy says the town was nothing before the factory, and asks Cobell about her own employment there, because everything she has, she owes to the Egan's. And Cobell says, no, it's mine. So, a lot to unpack there, but basically, we were right. Lumen does control the whole place, especially, they personally just ruined Salt's neck from the factory they put there, blah, 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 blah. You can put the pieces together. And, so yeah. Sissy is like, you're nothing without Lumen. Lumen gave you everything you had, and your employment. Like, your whole future right now is because of Lumen. You owe it to the Egans. And Cobell says, no, I owe it to myself. It's mine. Like, it's all my designs. And then she takes out, some papers. And I think it's what she pulled out from the statue bust, but maybe I'm misremembering. So she shows her papers, and on it are all original designs for the Severance chip. So you're like, oh my god, Cobell's the one that invented Severance. She's the one that made the Severance chip. This whole time it was her. But obviously, Lumen passes it off as their invention, right? So then, Sissy is like, that's not true. Jamie Egan was the inventor. And then Cobell's like, yeah, I know, that's what he's been saying. So Helena's dad has been lying about how he's the one that invented Severance and the Severance chip. And Sissy starts flipping through Cobell's work, which basically details everything, so it's really obvious that she's the one that created it. And Sissy was like, oh my god, this is extraordinary. Why have you never spoken of this? And Cobell explains that she was told Kira's knowledge is for all, and that she would be banished if she sought credit for her invention. So Sissy moves to put the plans in the fire, because she's like, we can't have this, we need to burn it. But then Cobell panics and wrestles them away from her. And she's like, I hope you die painfully, just like my mom did. And then Sissy tells Cobell that her mom was actually the one that removed the tube, not her. But Cobell refuses to believe it. Yeah, that's why she knew where to drill for the chip. Yeah. It's all coming together. And Sissy says that Cobell's mother was a coward and more sick in the soul than the body. And Cobell repeats that she doesn't believe any of it. And then Sissy was like, oh, I thought maybe you were different. I tried to help you grow, but now I see that you are just a weed, just like your mom was. And you're like, Jesus Christ. And then Hampton honks the truck outside and yells that someone is coming. So Cobell quickly leaves the house and gets in Hampton's truck. And he leaves him... So Cobell gets into his truck and then leaves him behind. So he's still standing there as a car approaches, and he welcomes the people, and he's like, I welcome you to come tame my tempers or something. Lumen speak. And then Cobell gets another phone call from Devin as she's driving away, and this time she answers it. And Devin explains to Cobell that Mark has been reintegrating and like what's been happening and that they need her help. And Cobell says she's surprised that reintegration hasn't even killed Mark yet and asks to speak to him. So Devin puts Mark on the phone and Cobell asks him to tell her everything. So you're like, oh, we still don't know if Cobell will help, but Devin was apparently right on the money, because they directly called the person that invented Severance, so if anyone knows about reintegration, it would be her, and not Ragabi. However, we don't know where Cobell's loyalties lie right now. It does seem like she hates Lumen, because they ruined her life and also like just stole her work. and left her to fend for herself. Just left her for dead. But she also has some twisted loyalty to them, so we're not sure. And that's the end of that episode. And now we're on episode 9, called The After Hours. Dun dun dun! Let me take a sip of water. Hi, Dono Dang! What's up? Good to see you. Oh, man, you really like this show. Yes, I do. Okay, now we're on episode 9. Longer than the last episode, but not one of the longer ones. Thank you for the redeems. I already hydrated, so I'll just posture check and stretch. Oi. Okay. So, episode 9. Helena swims laps in a pool. It opens up with her swimming in a pool. Let's go back up to Helena. Evil Helly. She swims and then she mates with her father Jamie, who says it's a momentous day. Let me put him up. He is creepy as hell. That's her dad. Sick individual. What do you mean they're all creepy? True. Okay, Jamie. I should put her last name too. Okay. So, Evil Helly is swimming in the pool, and then she meets with Jamie, her dad, who is like, it's a momentous day. And then he invites her to sit down at this like table. It's very, very weird. It's just like one table, and there's a plate, and on it is just a hard-boiled egg. And she cuts it into 4 equal pieces and starts eating them. And Jamie just sits there and watches her eat. And then as she's eating the boiled egg, he's like, like approving of her eating the boiled egg. And then she says, I wish you would take the raw. And you're like, what? He wants him to eat raw eggs? I think it's because Kier Egan, wasn't it like his favorite breakfast was raw eggs or something? Let me make sure. Yeah, so Kier Egan likes raw eggs and milk. I think. Kira's favorite breakfast was 3 raw eggs and milk every morning. Yeah, so her dad's like, I wish you would eat your eggs raw to Helena. Which is like, oh, okay, great. And everyone thought it was really weird. Because of how he was just acting the whole time. But this is what the eggs looked like. It was just one boiled egg and she cut it into like 6 pieces. Equal, and then she would just eat them. But like with a knife and a fork, like she would cut a little bit and eat it. It's a very, very strange scene. Severance. I'm trying to find the table she was sitting at, but I can't seem to find it on Google. Yeah, I can't find it, but this is what the room looks like. Oopsie. And he made her like just sit at this one little table and eat the egg. I don't know if you can see it. So this is where she's sitting. She's like just eating the boiled egg and he's just watching. Anyways. So then, she's eating the boiled egg, and he's like, I wish you would take them raw. And then it skips to Helena riding in the back of a car. And then it skips to a scene with Milchick and Miss Huang. And Milchick reveals a bust of Kier and then presents it to Miss Huang. No! Because remember when Cobell completed her Wintertide, her reward was a bust of Kier Egan. Or Jamie Egan. It was a bust of Jamie Egan. So Milchick reveals the bust of Kier and then he presents it to Miss Huang. And he says, congratulations for completing your Wintertide Fellowship. Which you're like, oh my god, she already completed it? Question mark? Sorry, I was checking if it was Kier. Yeah, okay. And then he congratulates her for completing the Wintertide Fellowship and says that her bed will be moved from her parents' home to the Gunnel Egan Empathy Center in Svalbard, and she'll work on global reforms there. And then Miss Huang is like, I thought I'd be finishing the quarter. And Milchick says no. And that she'll finish the rest of the day, and a shuttle will pick her up when the day is over. Which is, everybody talked about this scene a lot because the phrase Milchick says that her bed will be moved from her parents' house to the empathy center that, like, she's being sent to. And we can assume it's literal, like her actual bed will legit be moved from her parents' home to like this new place. But it's just so sad. It's like, she doesn't get a heads up, right? He's congratulating her for finishing her fellowship early, cause she thought she was gonna finish the quarter, so she gets no heads up, and then he's like, oh, by the way, by the time the day ends today, you won't be returning home anymore. Like, you'll just directly go to this new place. And your bed will be moved from your parents' home to this new place. It's just such a sad concept. And it reminds you again, like, how young she is. And it's just sad. It's like, out of nowhere, she's being told she won't be going home anymore. Even her bed is being moved out of her bedroom. Like, it's... Man... Yeah, it is really sad. So then, after he tells her that she'll finish the day and then a shuttle will pick her up at the end of the day, he instructs her to put her ring toss game on the table. So you know, like the little toy she's been playing with the whole time, which basically just represents her like childish fun and whimsy, which is one of the four tempers is about that. So he asks her to put her ring toss game on the table. And he says that in the handbook, it is required to sacrifice something that is of material value to the Kier Egan bust. So in this case, Milchick is having her sacrifice her ring toss game. So she does it, and she picks up the Kier bust and starts smashing the ring toss game on the table, which is her material sacrifice. And it's very sad because you can kind of see where this is going or what it means, but it is just like her kind of giving up her like childhood, or like that childish whimsy that she still had left in her. Because even when she was being like, oh, I'm the person in charge here, and like trying to come off as this adult, the second she was left alone, she would like take out this little toy and play with it, right? Because she's still a kid. So yeah, that whole scene was very much just her, like destroying the one thing that was still keeping her, tied to this sort of like childish image, I suppose. Not the right word, but you get what I mean. And it reminded me of Milchick repeating the phrases to himself in the mirror over and over again. Like, you must rid yourself of childish folly. You have to grow up. You have to stop this. Like, you have to stop being childish. Like, him repeating it to himself. And it's basically what's happening to her. Yeah. So then, also, The one thing that made her human. Yeah, it was the one thing that you were like, oh, like she's still a kid. Cause like every other time, she's very like lumen, like very lumen speak. And also this entire time, Milchick thinks that Miss Huang was the one who reported him for using like too many big words, basically. So he's also grown like frustrated with her. And then the scene skips to Gretchen and Dylan. And Gretchen, his wife, tells Dylan, his outie, that Asher picked up their kids. And then as they're talking, I think guilt like overrides her, and she confesses to Dylan that she kissed his innie. And then he is like a bit confused at first because he's like, you kissed my innie? And then she's like, yeah. And then he starts feeling very betrayed. Hi Hysteria, hello, hi. Oh my gosh. Guys, Hysteria is my new friend. She's so awesome sauce. I didn't know you streamed on Twitch. I thought it was, I thought it was YouTube like everyone else. Let me follow you real quick. I do sometimes. Ah, I see. Thank you. Yeah, my Chikawar model. Yeah, hello Hysteria. Welcome. I'm just recapping an entire show, so don't worry about it. Ikiari! But yeah, we're recapping Severance, and I'm going through the episodes, and I'm on episode 9 right now, and I'm just yapping. The yapper. Hello. Where was I? Oh yeah, so Gretchen tells Dylan, she's like, actually, I kissed her innie, and then he's like really confused, and then he feels really betrayed, and then he's like, why the heck would you do that to me? And then she's like, oh, it's because like meeting him reminded me of how you used to be, which is like, oof, that's what I said, right? That's what we were theorizing. That was like, oh, she's probably falling in love with his like innie version, because innies are kind of like you, but like wiped clean. And it reminded her of when like they were first falling in love with each other, and he was still making an effort to like be loving, or like show affection, still care about her, yada yada yada. And Dylan G is also like very hardworking, you know, like he's the best refiner in the macro data refinement team, right? So yeah, she's just like, oh, it just reminded me of how you used to be. And then Dylan is like, well, I'm going to go to work to earn a paycheck to feed our children. And you will not follow me there and use my body to cheat on me. It's so complicated. It's like, oh god, what the hell? But it's funny he says that, and he's like, I'm gonna go to work to earn a paycheck to feed our kids. But it's like not him working, it's Dylan G. Very confusing. But he kind of says that as a kind of like, F you, but it's also kind of not at the same time, and you're like, okay. So he leaves, and he's like, you know what? Actually, I just realized I have no way of knowing if the cheating will even happen or not. So maybe I'll just quit my job and kill my innie. Like, he basically is like, oh, then maybe I'll just quit and end my innie's existence. Which you're like, whoa. So then the scene skips to Irving, and Irving comes home, and you would like me to be me, wouldn't me? Basically what's happening right now. So Irving comes home and finds Bert waiting for him, like in his house. And Bert is holding Irving's notes on Lumen. Because remember, Irving's outie has been conducting all this research on Lumen. Hi Hime, welcome. And remember, Mr. Drummond broke into Irving's house like 2 episodes ago and was just looking through all of the stuff. So it's like, yeah, Irving's been found out, basically. So he sees Bert in his home looking through all of his notes on Lumen. And Bert is dressed very weirdly. He's dressed in like black and he has black gloves on. So you're like, and he's kind of just sitting in Irving's house reading all the research notes. And there's a portion in the notes on Lumen that Irving has that hints to the possibility of Bert being a low-level enforcer or goon for Lumen. So Bert looks up and Bert says they never used words like that at Lumen. Lumen uses very specific language. And Irving is like, yeah. So Irving starts getting a bit nervous and Irving is like, oh, yeah, I know I'm wrong now. I know you're not with them, Bert. I know you're not working with them, is what he starts saying. It's pretty obvious Bert is working for Lumen. This tragic old man Yaoi is crazy. But yeah. So Irving's like, no. Like, I know I'm wrong now, Bert. I know you don't work for Lumen. And then Bert is like, why don't we go for a ride together? And then Irving hesitates and Bert stands up from the chair and repeats again, like, why don't we go for a ride? And then the scene cuts away and you're like, oh God, Irving! Irving, no! So the scene cuts to the creepy Dr. Moore, the guy that hit with the chair by Gemma. Dr. Moore is watching Gemma on a screen, and he looks over and sees that Cold Harbor is still at 96%. So he calls Mr. Drummond, and he's like, why isn't Cold Harbor moving? Like, why is there no improvement? Wait, I forgot to put his name. Oops. Dr. Moore? More like, krill yourself! Just kidding, unless... we need to get rid of this. How do I get rid of this? Well, I'll just move it away. Out of sight, out of mind. Okay, so he calls Mr. Drummond, and he's like, why isn't Cold Harbor moving? Like, why are we making no progress? And Mr. Drummond is like, let me check. So Mr. Drummond calls Milchick, and he's like, hey, Milchick, why aren't the numbers moving? And Milchick is like, oh, Mark must be running late or something. And Drummond says that the final quota was promised today. So Mark has to go in. So he tells Milchick to get Mark in. Helly arrives at work, but no one else is there, only her. Also, final quota today, so Cold Harbor is supposed to be completed today. Scary! So yeah, Helly shows up to work and no one is there. So it cuts to Devin driving Mark somewhere. And she's asking him questions to test him, like to test that he's like okay, that he's like really there. And he thinks that this whole thing is a mistake. But that Devin's plan is even worse. Because Mark is like, we don't know if we can trust Cobell. Like, sure, reintegration was a mistake. I got a seizure and I convulsed and I think I'm dying. But your plan is worse. Because we don't know if we can work with Cobell. So they get to the meeting spot, but Cobell isn't there yet. And Mark is really worried that it's a trap. So Devin says that whether it is a trap or not, they need Cobell. And Mark gets a phone call from Milchick and Devin tells him not to answer it. And then the scene cuts to Helly walking into Mr. Milchick's office. And she's like, where's Mark? He hasn't come in for 2 days. And Milchick is like, I can't tell you why. And Helly is like, Mark had a nosebleed the other day and I'm worried that he's not okay. And Milchick questions her about why she cares and says that Dylan will act as department chief in his absence. So he dismisses her and he's like, go back to work, Heliar. So he calls her Heliar, right? And then Helly goes, shouldn't it be Helly E? And then she like walks up to Milchick and she's like, because you know, Helena is your employer, while Helly is your subordinate. And then she does like this power play on him. It was kind of crazy. It was basically like, you know, I'm your boss, right? I'm your employer. And then she leaves. It's crazy. Yo. Kind of left him a bit gagged, not gonna lie. So then the scene cuts to Gretchen talking to Dylan's innie. So she went to the visitation center anyway. And she's talking to Dylan's innie, and she tells him that she told his outie that they kissed and about them like kind of being a thing, and that his outie didn't take it well. And Dylan is like, well, shouldn't he be happy for us? Because I'm making you happy and he's not, kind of thing. He's like, well, like this innie version of me makes you happy. Like if the outie version isn't, he makes you feel miserable. And then Gretchen looks really guilty and sad, and then she's like, Dylan, I can't see you anymore. And then, what was it? Yeah, she was like, oh yeah, your outie threatened to quit, and he might do it regardless. But even if he doesn't, you know, like, this is over. Like, we have to stop doing this. So then Dylan starts begging her to stay, because she's literally the only thing that he can look forward to now while he's working. Because Irving, right? Irving B is dead. He's gone. So the only joy in Dylan's day now is just meeting his wife, you know? So he's like, well, without you, like, I can't live the rest of my life like this, never being able to see you again. It's like in season 1 where he found out he had a kid, and he's like, well, now I can't keep living knowing I have a kid out there, you know? So he starts begging her to stay because he has nothing else in his life. And then he quickly takes something out of his pocket, and it is so sad. It's like a paper ring made out of the, like, papers at his desk. And, he, like, gets down on one knee, and then he's like, this is, like, I made this for you. This is all I have. I don't have anything else. Like, I literally only have pens and papers. And, like, his rewards are also just, like, pens and papers, you know? He has nothing else in his life. So he's like, I know I couldn't get anything else, but this is all I have. And it's, like, this little paper ring. And then he's like, please stay. Like, I'm begging you. Like, I don't have anything else. I can't live like this. And then she's, like, she looks like she's holding back tears, and she's, like, really, really guilty. And then she just says, I'm sorry, and then she leaves. And then she just leaves him there. And it's so sad. Oh my god. And I forgot what he said exactly, but it's like, I don't have anything, but like I can still make you happy or something. I forgot what he said. Let me see. Let me see if I can find it. No, not here. Dylan. Oh yeah, here it is. Let me skim through it. And Dylan, like, also doesn't know, cause they've never been outside, right? So he doesn't know that you have to get down on one knee. He gets down on both knees. It's so sad because he like has no idea what he's doing. Oh, here. Here. Okay, I found it. It's so sad, man. Oh, the balls. Here we go.
But maybe if I tell him that this is over.
No, hold on.
This is all my fault. I never should have come here.
Wait, Gretchen, my life started when you came here.
That's not true. You have so much going for you.
No, I have nothing else. I have this, and I have fucking pencil erasers.
I'm sorry, I have to go.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, so much going for you is crazy. They have nothing. Also, the photos in the background of them is so messed up.
Gretchen G,
Oh my god.
I love you. And I know I'm just an innie, but I love you all the way. I do. Gretchen, I made this for you. I can give you a life, please.
This is so sad. God.
I'm so sorry.
The ring is so well done.
Gretchen.
Yeah.
Gretchen!
It's so sad, bro. What the hell? And then in the background, all these happy photos of them together. It's so messed up. Oh, this is like lumen torture. It's so sad, bro. Look at this little ring. Oh, it's so sad. Yeah, I forgot. I was looking for the line he says, but he says like, "I know I'm just an innie, but I love you all the way." Like, oh god. They don't even think they're like real people. It's so sad. Anyways, so then she leaves him there, and then he's back at his desk at MDR, just holding the ring. And Helly is talking to him, and Helly is like, "Hey, you should keep it, you know, and give it to someone you meet at Lumen, maybe." And Dylan is like, "Who? It's literally just the goat people and people working at optics and design." And Helly is like, "Well, that's all that we know of. Maybe there's more people, you know? Maybe there's other people on other floors that we just haven't met yet." So she's trying to be a good friend and comfort him. And Dylan is like, "Yeah, but Gretchen is my wife." And Helly is like, "Well, no, she's not your wife. And if Gretchen really loved you, she wouldn't be treating you like this, the way all the Audis treat us." And then Dylan says, like, it doesn't matter because they're still stuck with no lives and no families. It's like, God damn. And then Helly reminds him that Irving was his family and that Irving left him a message that he should follow through with, you know? She doesn't know where the message leads, but Irving thought it was important, and that, and Lumen convinced Dylan to turn his back on Irving for Gretchen. And then Dylan reminds Helly that it's her fault they're down there. And she was like, "But it's not my fault, you know?" And then Dylan asks how they couldn't tell when she was gone. If they're so different from the Audis. He's like, "Well, if our innies and Audis are such different people, if we're such like our own individuals, right?" Because Helly keeps reinforcing to Dylan's like, "Hey, but you're your own person, you know? Your Audie's married to Gretchen, but maybe you can meet someone else because, you know, we're our own people." But at this point, Dylan doesn't think that anymore, really. So he's like, "Well, if us and our Audis are so different, then how come we couldn't even tell when it wasn't you?" Damn! Goddamn! And then, Dylan, it's awful. And then Helly is like obviously offended, and she goes, "That's not true. Irving knew." And Dylan goes, "Yeah, but Mark didn't." Oof. Ah! That drama. Like they're being so mean to each other. Yeah. And Helly was trying to comfort him, but I understand he's like in the most terrible mood right now. Like he's about to off himself. But god damn. It's like, "Oh, if we're so different, how come we didn't even know when it wasn't you?" And she's like, "Well, Irving did." He's like, "Yeah? What about Mark? Mark didn't." Oof. Oof. Yeah, he even doinked her outie. That's crazy. Anyways. So the scene cuts to about Dylan was rejected, now tries to burn the whole thing down. Yeah, he's just like, "I'm going out and I'm just gonna burn as much as I can on my way out." Now the scene shifts to the meeting place that they agreed to meet Cobell at. And Cobell is there with Mark, and they're like facing each other, and it's very awkward because of everything they've been through. And Cobell asks Mark how he's doing, and Mark answers really sarcastically. I forgot what he said exactly. It was so funny though. He was like, well, my brain, he was like, well, I had open brain surgery in my basement. My head's been drilled open and filled with liquid, and I had a seizure. So yeah, I'm doing perfectly fine. I think is what he said, which is like, the sass. I'm not sure if I can find the exact quote, but it was really funny. No, I can't find it. It was really funny though. Mark was being so sassy like this whole time. He had his hand on his hip and everything. It was really funny. Because sometimes when we see Cobell and Mark, right? Mark, as an innie, he's very obedient and he doesn't really talk back and everything. But sometimes we see innie Mark's like sassiness slip through. Like sometimes he gets really sassy, right? And then we kind of see that outie Mark is just all sass. It's like their personality does like somehow stick with them. Anyways, so Cobell is like, don't be like that, we're allies now. And then Devin asks Cobell if she can take them to the birthing cabin so that they can talk to Mark's innie. And she says not yet. It's perilous even in the dark. So they have to wait until nighttime because it's really risky. And if you don't remember what the birthing cabin is, it's where Devin went to give birth in season 1. And she found a really rich lady there that apparently was using her innie just to give birth. So like this innie's whole existence is just waking up, being pregnant, giving birth, and then repeat until non-existence, which is Jesus freaking Christ. Anyway, so they're like, okay, we have to wait until nighttime, and Cobell says that they don't even know if Mark has completed the file yet, but she assumes that he hasn't. And Mark is like, what file? And she says Cold Harbor. And Cobell says, if you completed Cold Harbor, then that means Gemma is already dead. So you're like, oh my god! In the previous episode, when we found out all the files they're working on is like for the testing thing. Oh, how sick and twisted that they put Mark's innie in charge of Cold Harbor, and once he completes it, he kills his wife. What? His wife that's like already dead to him? This is crazy! Absolute insanity! And he doesn't know the whole time. And it's like the corpo thing where they reward you for like completing things fast. So it's like him being rewarded for completing Cold Harbor where he kills his wife. Jesus Christ. It's just all suffering, yeah. God, the birthing cabin thing always messes me up. I just cannot imagine. Anyways, so then Mark obviously reacts really badly to that information. And he threatens Cobell and says that Gemma better be alive. And he wants to leave now. But Cobell is like, hey, I'm trying to help you, okay? And Cobell tells Mark to call Milchick and tell Milchick that he isn't coming in because he's sick. Because if Milchick smells anything off, he'll lock Mark out of the Lumen building. Mark says he doesn't want to do it. But Devin is like, well, we don't have any choice but to do anything that Cobell asks. So then that's the end of that little scene. And then we cut to a scene of Helly going to the break room and retrieving the map that Irving drew on the back of the poster. So we're like, oh my god, Helly, she's picking up the work. And then the scene skips to Irving and Bert. And Bert is driving Irving and Irving's dog, Radar. And Bert tells Irving, he's like, you know, I never hurt anyone. I just drove people places and I didn't ask what happened once they got there. And Irving is like, is that what's happening now? So it's like, oh, Bert isn't like a hitman or whatever, you know. He drives the people to the place where they're supposed to be. God like gotten rid of. And it's just so sad to see this whole thing happening with Bert and Irving, because all you can think about is in season 1, like when they just loved each other so much, like they're innies, and then like this is the reality of their outies. Ah! Anyway, so the scene cuts again to Dylan. It's his innie, Dylan G. He fills out his resignation paperwork while Miss Huang and Milchick watch. And Milchick is like, this is very disappointing, and shows a great deal of like lack of gratitude. And Dylan ignores him. He finishes writing his resignation. He hands over his key card, and Milchick sends him to wait by the elevator. And then Miss Huang apologizes to Dylan, and she's like, I'm sorry for not facilitating better. And Dylan looks at her, and he's like, it's not your fault. It's not Dylan. And then the scene cuts to Mr. Drummond. He's angry with Milchick on the phone. Oh wait, no, they're not on the phone. Oh my god, this scene is iconic. Okay, so Drummond and Milchick are at the Lumen building, and they're talking to each other, and Drummond is really mad at Milchick. Because he's like, I thought you said you were tightening the leash, but you have no idea where Mark S is? Today was supposed to be Lumen's finest day, like a fine day in history where we complete Cold Harbor, and you don't even know where Mark is. And Drummond blames Milchick. And Milchick is like, I haven't done anything wrong. I've always followed protocol. And Drummond gets really pissed, and then Drummond says, you just used a needlessly complex word. And then he orders Milchick to apologize. And then Milchick apologizes, but in, a Milchick way, with big words. And Mr. Drummond cuts him off and says, you had to shorten that. And then Milchick is like, okay, I'm sorry. And Mr. Drummond is like, do it again. And I think it's at this moment that Milchick snaps, and he also realizes that Miss Huang wasn't the one that filed the complaint about him using needlessly big words. It was Mr. Drummond. So this whole time he's been frustrated with Miss Huang, but it wasn't even her. It was actually this guy. So Milchick snaps, and he delivers one of the best lines in the whole show. I'll play it for you right now, because it went it went viral. It was so good. You're gonna love this guy. Okay, I'll do this video because it has the most views. I'm ready. We ready? It's so good.
So this is tightening the leash. Our most vital refiner missing in the wind. On what was to be Lumen's finest day. This is your fault.
I have followed protocol, Mr. Drummond. But I thank you for your remonstration.
A needlessly complex word for a simple idea. Apologize for the word.
Sir,
Apologize for the word.
I apologize.
Shorter.
I'm sorry.
Again.
Mr. Drummond.
Again.
Devour feculence. It means eat shit, Mr. Drummond.
What did you just just say to me?
I am manager of the severed floor, which means two things. First, I am owed a measure of respect, even by my superiors.
Get him!
Second, and more obvious, that said floor comprises the whole of my jurisdiction. To put that monosyllabically, it's not my fault what Mark Scout does when he is not at work. It's yours.
Get him! Get his ass! Which means it's your fault. He got him so good. It was so good. Oh my god. When that scene came out, Devour Feculence was everywhere. Devour Feculence, it means eat shit, Mr. Drummond. Oh my god. And then, not a lot of people picked up on it. But when he was saying, like, the entirety of the floor is under my jurisdiction, I think is what he said. And then he says to put it monosyllabically. Oh yeah, I can't speak. He says like to put it monosyllabically or something. I can't pronounce it. He says like, Mark, it's not my fault. Mark Scout is gone, I think is what he says. I had to rewatch it. But if you notice that every single word he says after that only has one syllable, because Mr. Drummond only wants him to speak in one syllable. So he's like, to put it in only one syllable words, it's not my fault. And everything is in one syllable. It's so good. Wait, let me see which part it is.
What did you just say to me?
I am manager. First, I am owed a measure of respect.
Is it here?
Second, and more obvious, that said floor comprises the whole of my jurisdiction. To put that monosyllabically, it's not my fault what Mark Scout does when he is not at work.
It's not my fault what Mark Scout does when he is not at work. And everything is one syllable. Oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. Your fault monosyllabically. It's so good. It's such a good scene. It's so good. Oh, it was genius. It's genius. It's genius. It's so peak. Devour Feculence. So good. Anyway. So that scene happens, and everyone went crazy over it because, oh my god, my music wasn't playing. Everyone went crazy over it because Mr. Milchick finally lost his shit. To put it monosyllabically, he lost his shit. And yeah, we loved it. We loved it. So then, yeah, he uses simple words to be like, it's not my fault that Mark Scout is missing. And he also stood up for himself. He's like, you know what, I'm the manager of the severed floor. I command some respect even by my superiors, such as you. And I'm only responsible for my floor, so it's not my fault what the employees do any other time. It wasn't playing the whole time. Apparently not. Hold on, my tracking stopped. Apparently not, I didn't notice. I just noticed, right? I was too into this. So yeah, he's like, actually, it's your fault. And the scene skips to Mark. And he's calling Mr. Milchick on the phone, just like Cobell told him to. And he calls him and he's like, hey, so I've been worried about my nosebleeds. So I drove to a clinic. And Milchick is like, oh, well, I can bring you to Lumen for care. Like, we can send someone to bring Lumen for us to, like, take care of you, you know? And Mark is like, no, I just need a day off. And Milchick is like, oh, why? And Mark is like, you know, life stuff. Lumen's all about balance, right? I just need to handle some life stuff. And Milchick is like, okay, but I need your word that you'll report to work tomorrow. And Mark is like, okay, I promise I'll be there. It's funny because I think like while he was on the phone, Cobell was in the background shaking her head. She was like, "No, tell him you're not gonna be there." But then Mark is like, "Yeah, I promise I'll be there." Apologize. I'm sorry I have to work for an idiot like you. Literally, I'm way too hooked to notice the music, right? That's literally what he said. It was so funny. Yeah, I felt so bad the whole time when he was like, "You're using a needlessly complex word to describe something simple again. Apologize for doing so." And it's like, it's so sad because it's such a huge core part of Milchick's character, the way he talks. And like making him apologize for just talking the way he talks is like making him apologize for like just being himself. It's like apologize for like being you, you know? So that scene was so awesome. Protocol is really the word that did it. Yeah, I bet. So then we cut to Irving and Bert again, and it seems like they're at a train station. Bert buys a train ticket, and then he gives it to Irving. And he says, "I bought the ticket for as far as the line can go." And then Bert says, like, "I can't know where you get off, and you can never come back to Kier." And Irving's like, "I don't understand. What's happening?" He's like, won't Lumen come after you for sparing me?" And Bert turns around, and he's like, "I only severed because I liked the idea of being innocent again. Like, at least a part of me to be innocent. And then the innocent part of me fell in love with you." And Irving is like, "Well, I want to remember that." And Bert says, "It's probably better if we don't." And Irving goes, "I've never been loved before. Like, no one has ever loved me before." And Bert tells him, well, now he has been loved before. And he asks Irving how it feels. And Irving says he doesn't know because, you know, this is innie. And he asks if Bert doesn't want to know how it feels. And Bert says it's not possible, and then he tells Irving to go. And then it's this like really sad scene where Irving says like, "I want to have what I had with you again. I'm ready." And then he leans in towards Bert, and their foreheads are like touching, and he's like, "I'm ready now." And then he keeps repeating like, "I'm ready, I'm ready." And then Bert says they can't, even though it looks like he wants to, and then he pulls back. And then they shake hands and they say goodbye. And it's a very interesting scene because it's like, is it Irving falling for Bert again? Or is it like some part of him remembered that love, you know? Because I think that's a huge theme that you can kind of realize by now. The same way that they were testing if Mark S and Miss Casey would like have any reaction to each other. Like they're trying to test if feelings transcend severance, right? And in particular, if love will transcend severance. And it seems like Irving somehow remembers a little bit, or he kind of has just that natural magnetism with Bert. And this is a really sad part, but if you... Okay, so Irving was saying, like, "I want to remember how it feels, I'm ready," right? And he keeps repeating, "I'm ready, I'm ready." If you remember in season 1, when Bert and Irving, their innies fell in love, and they met in, like, that little greenhouse room. Bert was the one that was like, "I want something with you. Like, I want a relationship, I want to love you." And he's like, I'm ready for it. And then Irving says, "I'm not. Like, I'm not ready." So then Bert is like, "That's okay, that's fine, we can take it slow." And that was in season 1. And then in season 2, the last thing that they say to each other as they're outies is Irving saying, like, "I'm ready, you know, like, I'm ready to, like, I'm ready to love you." And then Bert saying, "We can't." And it's like, oh man, the flip-flop, it's so good. This show's so good, man. It's so painful. The one thing I learned from the show is there's always a bigger asshole, and Lumen is a whole asshole hierarchy. Old man Yali's still on the table? I hope so, but it doesn't seem like it. Oh, it's so sad. I can't believe they did that. I cannot believe they did that. I'm pretty sure it will still be on. Like, I'm sure Irving will come back. I hope so, because he has so many, like, unsolved mysteries. It's like, what was he looking into? Like, what was he researching? And then also the person on the phone that he kept calling and being like, oh, Lumen is on to me now. Like, who was he calling, right? So there's, like, so many unanswered questions. I'm like, they have to bring Irving back. Come on, please. Anyway, so after that scene where it's Irving's turn to say I'm ready and Bert says they can't, they shake hands and then say goodbye. And then it cuts to Dylan sitting and looking at the elevator, waiting to leave. And then it cuts to Miss Kwong standing outside of the building after the day is ended, and she's just waiting outside. And it's so sad because she's like holding her stuff and she has like these little ear warmers on. And she just looks so small, and she's standing in the cold and just waiting to be picked up, to be shipped to some like unknown location where they moved her bed from her parents' house. It's so sad. And then it cuts back to Irving, and now he's on a train with his dog. Oh yeah, if it wasn't obvious enough already, Bert bought a plane ticket to Irving to like the furthest station, and he's like, just take this and run and don't ever come back. And I can't know which place you get off at, because if Bert knows where Irving ran off to, then there's a possibility that Lumen could like take it out of him, right? So yeah, that's what happened. And then it shows Dylan getting on the elevator, and then it shows a shuttle coming to pick Miss Huang up, and then it shows Bert leaving the station. And then it shows that it's nighttime, and Cobell, you know, and Devin are in the truck, and Mark climbs into the back of the truck where they hide him. And then the elevator, it cuts to the elevator at the testing floor, which is where Gemma is on. The testing floor chimes. And then it cuts to Helly sitting alone in the dark, and she's trying to memorize the directions on Irving's map, the one that she like took earlier. And she's trying to find out where it is. And then Jamie comes to see her, and Jamie is like, you tricked me. And then Helly is like really confused because he's like, she's like, what? And then Cobell drives them to the birthing retreat. So Devin is in the passenger seat pretending to be pregnant. And they go up to like the security and they're like, what are you here for? And Cobell says something really, really creepy. But she's like, okay, so Devin's pretending to be pregnant, right? And Mark is hiding in the truck bed. And she gets to the gate. And she's like, oh, just passing through, you know. She's pregnant, she's about to give birth. And the people are like, okay, like, where's your, like, ID? Like, where's the proof? And Cobell says, oh, it's, like, supposed to be a secret because it's one of Egan's or something. I think is what she says. I don't know the exact words, but it implies, it's basically her saying, like, this is not on the thing because it's one of, like, Jamie Egan's or something. And you're like, oh, that's so creepy. You're telling me this guy has been, like, pumping out kids, and then, like, they're, like, paid off to, like, go to the birthing retreat, and then, like, give birth as idiots. Oh my god. This whole mess with this nasty old man. This is terrible. Yeah, I think that's what she implied. Let me search for the exact word. Birthing cabin. Cobell sneaks them into the birthing retreat. Yeah, I know that. I just want to know the exact words that she said. Oh yeah, she also knew all the secret codes to get in. to add on to the creepy theory, ready? Everyone was saying that they thought it was very interesting that Cobell not only knew which birthing cabin to go to for severed birth, because she does state a specific cabin, but she also knew the secret code to get into it. And we know that not all of the cabins are like the portal cabins between innies and outies, because Devin's cabin was perfectly fine, right? And Mark was able to go into Devin's cabin without switching. So Cobell knows the specific cabins to go to, and also the code. And it also seems like the cabin she requested is a cabin that Jamie Egan uses. Because of the secret births, he doesn't want them to know that like he's having kids, right? And also, it's frowned upon in their little like Cure Egan book or whatever. So people are saying, is it possible that Cobell was previously driven there as a pregnant passenger and she was just repeating what was said to her, like the guard when she went through? Which is a crazy theory because Jamie Egan is also the person that chose Cobell as his Wintertide Fellowship when she was younger. And when she finished her fellowship, her reward was like a statue bust of Jamie Egan, which is mega creepy. And that appears to be the implication because Milchick has made a point to say that his job, which used to be Cobell's job, was to only manage the severed floor, which means like driving people to the birthing retreats would not fall under Cobell's wheelhouse, right? So like, why would she know all of this so well? It's getting creepier, yeah. And then she also has a lot of knowledge about lactation. Like in season 1 when she pretended to be a lactation coach for Devin, right? And she was like really experienced in it, even though she doesn't have kids, or we don't think she has kids. So it's like, why was she so knowledgeable in it, right? So people are saying it could be that she used to work as a lactation coach for the mothers of like Jamie's implied to be like many children. And there's no indication that she's ever had a child up to this point, right? But all throughout season 1, we see that she's really good at caring for newborns. Like she's really good with children. She has like a soft spot for them and she knows like what to do with them. Yeah, it's just so, I don't like this. But yeah, we don't know if she has personally given birth before, but it is more heavily implied that she's done this before, like driving people to the birthing cabin and then helping them nurse like the kids. Yikes! Anyways, so they eventually go to cabin or cottage 5, which is where Jamie Egan's the mothers of his children go to, is in cabin 5. Also, imagine all the innies used. Oh my god. Anyways, so Mark's innie activates inside of the cabin. He wakes up and he's like obviously panicking because he thinks he's supposed to be at work. He doesn't know he's missed 2 days of work, right? So he wakes up in the cabin and he's like, oh, where am I? And Devin is like, it's okay. Also, Devin is so sweet with his innie. It's so cute because Devin and Mark have such like a sibling dynamic where they like make fun of each other and tease each other. But Devin with Mark S, she's like, it's okay. She's so sweet to him. So Devin's like, no, it's okay, you're fine, don't worry. And then Mark S gets up and tries to leave, and Devin's like, no, it's not gonna work because you'll just come like right back in if you go out there. Which is very reminiscent of the scene where Helly was like trying to get out in the stairwell, but then she just kept like coming back in, remember? So yeah. Devin leads him upstairs where Cobell is waiting for him. And then it's really funny because the way that it's framed is like a cabin, and then there's a fireplace, and Cobell is standing in front of the fireplace, so it looks like behind her is just flames. It looks like he's entering hell, and Cobell's just standing in the middle. It's really funny. Hi Ninja! Thank you for the hydrated stretch. I will hydrate after I finish this last part, but basically, Devin leads Mark S to where Cobell is waiting, and then Devin asks Mark S if he remembers the last thing he said to her about someone being alive. She's alive! And that's the end of that episode. Now I'll drink some water. Because we are at the finale! And the finale is the 10th episode, and it is titled Cold Harbor. Woo! And the episode is 1 hour and 15 minutes long. Crazy! Wait, I'm scared. Literally me. I was like, I don't know if I want to watch this. When it came out, everyone had watched it up to this point, and I was just like, I don't know if I want to. Gemma! Yeah, I just want her to be happy. Also, there's a scene you will really like in this episode. It's milkshake focused. It's really good. Okay, so episode 10 finale, Cold Harbor. Hi, Necro. Hello. Guy, when there's another milkshake scene. Yes. All right, so Cold Harbor. They're at the birthing cabin, and right now it's Innie Mark, so Mark S. I would just say Mark S versus Mark to be like Innie Outie. So they're in the birthing cabin, and Cobell starts to question Mark S, demanding to know if he has finished Cold Harbor. He's frightened, but he's like, no, I haven't. So then Cobell has hope now because she's like, okay, that means Gemma's alive and she can still be saved. So Cobell tells Mark S about the exports hall, the dark hallway with the elevator. So she tells him about the exports hall and how it leads to the testing floor. And then Mark S is like, okay, I remember that from Irving's drawings and paintings. And he's like, yes, I know where that is. And then we're back at Lumen, where Jamie is in the doorway to MDR. And he's recounting the disaster of the Egan family gala. If you remember, the Egan family gala is where Helena was when they activated the overtime contingency, and then Helly woke up as her. And she basically went up on stage and was like, Lumen is evil, they're torturing us down there, like they're torturing us, we're dying, we're suffering, it's so bad, like oh my god. And then she woke up as Helena again, and then Helena had to do like the damage control bit. Sorry guys, I was just drunk, I didn't mean any of it. I love Lumen blood, Lumen for life. You know? So Jamie Egan is referring to that, and he's like, oh, that was a disaster. But he says it in Lumen speak, and then Helly like interrupts him mid-Lumen speak, and Helly goes, God, you're fucking weird. So funny. And then Jamie approaches her, and Helly grabs a pen to defend herself with. And then Jamie Egan goes, he admits, he's like, I have never loved Helena, my child. Basically, he's like, I've never loved my daughter, which is you, but like the other you. He's like, yeah, actually, I do not love Helena. And he explains that he once saw cure in her, but that faith has faded. And he recalls the children he sired in the shadows, but cure wasn't in any of them either. And also, so that confirms that he's been having like random kids, because he said, Lumen speak, but he's like, even the children I sired in the shadows, I couldn't see cure in any of them. And normal person speak, even the kids I secretly had, I didn't see cure in any of them. So, and then he says, but until now, I see cure again. I see him in you, which is in Helly herself, Helly R. Crazy. And then Helly lunges at him, and she says the Egan family created hell and would burn in hell as well. And then Jamie simply says that he sees cure, and then he walks off and ignores her. Helly is so... I love Helly. Just like, my personal opinion is I'm not really on the Helly R and Mark S like ship boat. But I adore Helly like as her own character. I really like her. I just don't like the pairing. But moving on. Yeah. That's just my opinion, though. I have a few friends that really like them. Okay, so yeah, and then he walks off. Gemma, my girl. And then, so Mark is now, we're back in the cabin, by the way. Mark S is trying to understand what Cold Harbor is. And Cobell's trying to explain to him what he has to do to get Gemma out of there. So Cobell says once the file for Cold Harbor is complete, he has to go to the experts hall, where he will go to the testing floor, and his Audi will go and find and guide Gemma out of that floor, because the testing floor is unsevered. And then Devin tells Mark S that if they can prove that Gemma was kidnapped, Lumen would be finished. But Mark S is like, wait a second, what would happen to all the innies on the floor if Lumen is over? And then Devin and Cobell can't answer him, because the outcome of this plan would be Gemma being freed, right? And Mark being happy again. But they never take into account what would happen to the innies, because if Lumen is done for, like, they're all basically dead too. And since Mark S isn't innie, that is the one thing he takes into consideration, right? Because as much as he wants to help, that's not his life, technically. His life is on the floor. So he's like, okay, if I do this for you guys, what would happen to me? Like, do I just die? What would happen to everyone I know, on the floor? And Cobell and Devin can't answer him because technically he would just be gone. And they also kind of never really considered that. Because, they're Audis, unsevered, so they don't take that into consideration. And Mark S comes to the conclusion that every innie, including himself, would die in order to save Gemma. So he immediately objects to the idea. Because he's like, well, you're sacrificing everyone I know, including myself, to save this person who is supposed to be my wife, but I don't really know her, right? And then Devin is like, okay, someone else wants to talk to you, alright? And then she hands him a camcorder, and then opens the door to the balcony, and then leaves. So Cobell tells Mark S to watch the video, record his response, and then once he's done recording his response to the video, to step outside onto the balcony. So Mark S sits down in the chair and he presses play. And he sees Audi Mark. So Mark and Mark S, I'm just gonna do that to differentiate between them because it gets a bit confusing because now they're talking to each other for the first time. So Mark S presses play, and on the video it's Mark. And it's so sad because Mark S immediately gets really happy. He's like, oh my god, it's my Audi version. It's his first time talking to him. It's their first time interacting. So in the video, Mark greets Mark S, and he says hey, listen, I know what we're asking of you, and I'd like to apologize for that. I realize now that I have created you as a prisoner, and I blindly listened to Lumen's propaganda, and that's not right, and you don't deserve that. I want a chance to make things right. So if you, Mark S, would give me that, then please let me know. And then the video ends. And Mark S contemplates for a moment, and then he presses record. And then he starts recording his video, and he's like, hey Mark. It's really weird, they're talking to each other. But yeah, he records the video, and then he goes out to the balcony, you can assume, and Audi Mark, which is just Mark, wakes up on the balcony. So we're like, oh, okay, so the balcony is the little portal space, basically. Mark wakes up, and he looks down and he sees the camera in his hand, so he's like, oh, then Mark S responded to me. So he presses the video, he watches it, and Mark S thanks him for the apology, and he's like, I appreciate you saying sorry, but I assure you that my life at Lumen isn't as much of a nightmare as you put it. we find our own ways to make it work, which is why your request scares me. Because it reminds me that a life at Lumen is everything that us innies have, and we don't want to lose it. And I would like to ask for you to understand that. So the video ends, and Mark presses on the recording button to respond, and he's like, hey, you know, I sympathize with you, but I assure you that Lumen doesn't have to be your entire life. Because he's like, I've been reintegrating, and I've had memory flashes that I've received caused by the reintegration, which combines our memories into one person. And he says, like, I swear when I finish getting Gemma out of there, this life will belong to both of us, and I want to share my life with you. And then he ends the recording. Which is like, okay, I can see what he's trying to say there, but it's also such like, you guys have such different lives already at this point. Like, Mark S loves someone else, you know? So like, what would happen if you reintegrated into one person? Like, also, which person would take over? Because it doesn't seem like they can both coexist equally. So like, will one person have more control over the other when they're combined? Like, would more of Mark's memories be kept, for example? So it's a lot of this to think about. Anyway, so Mark S, watches the video, and at this point, they don't show them like they don't show them recording back and forth. Now they're just showing like the videos. So I'll try to explain it so it's not too confusing. So Mark S is really confused by this response in the video, and he's like, well, then who would be in control of the body? And then Mark clarifies and says it would be the good and bad memories have merged together into a single being. Like, that's what it would be like. So Mark, who's skeptical, is like, well, but you have been alive far longer than I have, which means the new hybrid person we become would be more like you than me. And then Mark responds and says it doesn't work that way though. So then Mark responds again and is like, well, then how does it work? And then Mark thinks for a bit, and then he presses record, and he starts recalling his grief in the aftermath of Gemma's accident, and he's saying like he destroyed himself, like he just kept drinking. He hid Gemma's belongings in the basement because it was easier to live in denial of her ever existing. And he thought that he was protecting Mark from the pain. And yeah, me in front of the mirror talking to myself, basically. And then Mark is like, you know, it's almost like how you fall in love, right? You found someone named Helly, except he doesn't say Helly, he says Helene. He says, well, you fell in love with someone, right? Helene? And then he compares like the relationship Mark S has with Helly to his relationship with Gemma, except he unintentionally mispronounces her name, which kind of unintentionally shows that to him, Mark S and Helly's relationship is insignificant. Right? Like, compared to his relationship with Gemma. That's what he's unintentionally saying, because although Mark is trying to be considerate, at the end of the day, he still thinks of Inez as like lesser than. And it's like, yeah, but you're not your own person, you're me, kind of. So he still believes that way. Yeah, it's kind of cute, Helene. So yeah, he does that by accident, and Mark is watching the video, and he realizes that Mark is like desperate, and so he corrects the Helene mishap, and he's like, well, actually, her name's Helly, and you would know her name if you took any interest in my life before you actually needed my help. So he like calls him out on his bluff, and is like, yeah, Mark didn't really care about Mark S.'s life until he needed his help. And Mark S is like, yep, you would have known if you actually cared. Um, so then, Mark S. Mark calls Audi Mark's bluff and states that he will lose Helly if he goes through with this plan, as they both know that Helena would never reintegrate. Which is like, oh my god, I didn't think about that. Helly is forever trapped there because there's no way Helena would want to like combine with her, right? And then Mark S. and Mark is like, well, this is all assuming if the procedure is real and that you're not just lying to me so that I can help you. And then Audi Mark is really taken aback. And he becomes really, really desperate because he realizes that the plan's not really working. So he starts begging Mark for help. Which fuels Mark's distrust into believing that Audi Mark would actually help him once Gemma is saved. And then Audi Mark starts getting really angry, and he tells them that they're in the situation together and that he just has to trust him. And Mark refuses. So Devin and Cobell return to the room just as Audi Mark is ranting that his innie won't listen to him. So Cobell says, okay, let me speak to him. Like, I demand to speak with him alone. So Devin leaves and Mark steps back through the door of the balcony and ding 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 cuts away. So now it's Mark. And Cobell is talking to Mark S one-on-one. And Cobell reveals to Mark S that the numbers that he has been filing the whole time is Gemma. And Mark is really confused. And Cobell says that the numbers that MDR are sorting through are a doorway into Gemma's mind itself. And Mark S is still like, what? What are you talking about? So Cobell tells him, like, do you remember how you felt from the numbers? Like, do you remember the negativity, the emotions? And Mark S is like, okay, yeah. Yeah, like, it made me feel scared and sometimes it's very sad. And Cobell cuts him off and says, okay, now list the 4 tempers of Kier. And then he lists them and she's like, those number clusters in the file are her tempers. It's her brain's building blocks. So Mark S is like, what? Then what am I building? And Cobell reveals that every completed file led to the creation of a new innie on the testing floor. And Cold Harbor is the last one. So all these files, right, that are the rooms, it isn't just them working on those rooms. It is the creation of a new innie. So every single file they completed was a new innie they created using Gemma. And them filing away the 4 tempers, I have to make sure I remember them. Again, is Woe, Frolic, Dread, and Malice. So they're cutting all of these things out of Gemma's brain and creating like innies out of them. So then, Cobell reveals that the completed files led to creations of new innies on the testing floor, and that Cold Harbor is the last one. So tomorrow would have been his final day at Lumen anyways. So he would have died regardless, even if he didn't help his Audi, which is crazy because Lumen is like, oh my god, you're gonna finish your work? Come on, finish it faster. Come on, do a good job. Good boy, finish your work. And then when they do finish their work, Lumen's gonna be like, okay, we don't need you anymore. So off you go into non-existence and all of you are gonna die. Like without telling them. Because if they did tell them, obviously they wouldn't do it, right? So this whole thing is just crazy. So Cobell reveals to Mark S that like, hey, even if you went back tomorrow and completed the file, that would have been your last day alive anyway. Like that would have been your final day at Lumen. Because you have served your purpose and so has Gemma. So Mark S is like, well, what the heck? Why are you really there then? And then she bluntly tells Mark S that the life he wants of Helly is impossible because the Egans do not care for him and are simply using him. So Mark refuses to listen, understandably, because what the hell do you even say to that? How do you even react to that, you know? And he charges out of the room demanding that he either wake up on the severed floor or Mark would never see his wife again. So he steps through the door and it goes like ding, and he's in the elevator again. And he's entering an unrecognizable severed floor lobby. And in place of the old painting, at the front of the elevator, when the elevator door opens, there's a huge painting. And instead of the huge painting, there's a huge mural featuring Mark sitting at his console, surrounded by every person he has ever met in his short life. The past Egan CEOs, and also Helena standing on a mountaintop far behind all of them. So it's like, oh my god, what is going on? They renovated the entire floor just for Mark to complete Cold Harbor. They're like, congratulations! Not knowing that he knows it's just him being sent to his death. So then the elevator opens again and Helly runs out of the elevator and hugs Mark. And Mark is like, I have to tell you something. And then Helly R is like, me too, like I also have things to tell you. So the two of them walk through the like pitch black hallways, and it's only illuminated by motion activated lights that follow them. They reach MDR, where a wax statue of Cure Egan stands under a spotlight holding an envelope. Mark opens it, and it's a message of congratulations from Mr. Milchick. That is like, I promise you bountiful rewards for your hard work. Which is crazy because he's just being killed off. And the triple desk that they work at appears in the dark, and Mark sits down at his console. And Helly whispers about her whole encounter with Jamie Egan to Mark, and she's like, he said today is a special day. I wonder why he said that. And Mark simply tells her he knows why. So then, Milchick stops in front of the elevator, and Dylan G exits out of the elevator. And Dylan's really confused because he's like, but I killed myself. Why am I here? So Dylan G is like, oh, did my Audi reject my resignation request? And Milchick doesn't answer him, just tells Dylan to follow him. So Dylan follows after, and he stares at the bizarre painting of Mark working on Cold Harbor. And the title of the painting is revealed to be The Exalted Victory of Cold Harbor. So then, we're on the testing floor now, and Gemma opens her wardrobe and sees the same clothes that she wore on the night of her accident, which is insane! Oh my god, my tracking stopped. Can you imagine opening the wardrobe and then like the clothing there is the clothes you were wearing on the night you died? Nasty! So, she sees that it's the same clothes she wore on the night of her accident. And she's like, what the hell is this? And the nurse Cecily, ignores her questioning and just tells her to get dressed. So then, it skips to Mark S. and Helly. And Helly is mid-conversation asking what happens once Gemma's chip is extracted. And, you know what happens is they just all don't exist anymore. So Helly is like, oh, but what would happen after they complete their mission? And Mark doesn't say anything, he just looks at her. And Helly like understands from the eye contact, it's like, oh. And then Helly says, we can't trust Cobell. And Mark vouches for her and is like, no, she's different this time. And he debates refusing to finish the file, but Helly reminds him that if Cobell's right, they are done either way. But if he can get Gemma out, then Lumen would be destroyed, and he could attempt reintegration. And then, before returning to work, Helly glances toward the console and remarks that someone needs to be around to rebuild after Lumen falls. So basically she's like, because they're both aware that Helly would be done for if Lumen's also done for, because her Audi is Helena, which is Lumen's CEO. And so she would never be back, and Helena would not reintegrate, probably. So Helly's just done for. So she's just trying to crack like a little joke and be like, hey, you know, it's fine. Someone needs to stay and be around to rebuild after Lumen falls. And then she pulls a folded scrap of paper from her pocket. And it's a half like joke, half serious mock-up like white paper for a cryptocurrency that she and Irving once joked about in the break room. And it's like $ lamb. And lamb, they said, she says stands for loyalty and memory backed. And then she's like joking around with him, like trying to uplift the mood and being like, oh yeah, Irving and I created this. We even had tiered staking. 1 month gets you a sticker, 3 gets you a therapy session. And she's like joking with him, it's really sweet. And Mark like chuckles a little bit through his nerves. And he replies that it's probably more real than anything Lumen ever built. And then they share like some bittersweet laughter before falling into silence. And it is just so haunting because it's like, first of all, oh, Ellie trying to lighten the mood by making like a joke about something her and Irving did. And they're just trying to laugh through it, but like it's so bittersweet and they can't bring themselves to actually laugh because they're literally just facing their death. Like they're counting down the minutes until they don't exist anymore and can't see each other ever again. So then Mark refuses to do it again, and he's like, my Audi could be lying. And Helly implores him to consider. She's like, but yeah, but maybe he's not lying, and you might still have a chance at living. And then Mark starts to cry, and he's like, yeah, but I want a chance to live with you. And then Helly reminds him of who she really is. Like, she's like, remember, you have to remember who I actually am. You know, like, I'm actually Helena Egan. There is no chance, like, between, like, there never was. And then with hesitation, she starts to work on Cold Harbor. And then, it cuts to Milchick untying his tie, and he's running down the hallways. And at MDR, Mark reaches 99%, so they're almost done. And Helly is, like, still trying to lift up the energy. I love Helly, she's so sweet. So Helly's still trying to, like, cheer him up and lift up the energy as they're working to their death, basically. And she's like, I'm trying to remember more place names. And she starts listing, like, Europe, Zimbabwe, and then the equator. And then they laugh a little bit and they start joking over what the equator actually is. And then Mark, like, goes quiet and he shares, like, a really sad gaze with her. And Helly looks back and she goes, like, you know, I really wish we had more time. And then on the final cluster of numbers that they file, Helly moves over to Mark and she slips Irving's drawing of the hallway to him. And then he dumps the final cluster into a bin, and Cold Harbor flickers from 99% to 100% completion. And we see a satisfied Mr. Drummond telling Dr. Moore to inform Jamie Egan. This whole scene is just so messed up. I really appreciate Helly, like, trying her best to, like, lighten the mood and stuff, despite her probably having an even higher chance of non-existence than Mark S. Like, she's done for sure. Mark S maybe might be able to if, like, the reintegration thing is true, but, like, Helly's done. But even so, she's, like, trying her best to make him feel better, and I was like, oh. And I also found it really sweet that during this time, Helly kept bringing up Irving, because it's like he's already gone by this point. Their Irving, their innie Irving, he's already gone by this point, but, like, even now, he's still providing this source of comfort for them. Like, Helly's bringing him up as, like a joke that they made together, And then even in the final moment, like right as Mark is completing Cold Harbor, she slips him the drawing Irving made of the hallway. It's like even with him being gone, he is contributing so much to like this whole thing they're doing. And he's contributing so much to like the downfall of Lumen and like this freedom, you know? Which is what his Audi is also doing, right? Like researching Lumen and stuff like that. And I'm just like, oh, Irving! Irving's the GOAT, man. Anyways, so they inform Jamie Egan that Cold Harbor is complete. And then techno music starts playing in MDR, and the spotlight shines on a wax figure of Cure, who is now moving and speaking, which is creepy as hell. And the wax figure congratulates Mark on completing Cold Harbor and says that it has brought Cure's grand agendum closer to fulfillment, making Mark one of the most important figures in history. And the wax figure introduces Milchick, who walks in to the sound of fake crowds applauding. And he begins to praise the Cure statue. But then the statue insults him in a very similar way to the way Drummond did over his verbose way of speaking, which hits Milchick deeply, because it's like, oh, now Cure Egan himself is also dogging on him. Yeah. So it hits Milchick deeply, and Milchick praises Cure's legacy, but then he switches up and he starts insulting the statue's he starts insulting the statue's like added height compared to Cure's real height. He's like, well, oh yes, thank you. Like, also, I love that you made yourself taller than you actually were. So the wax figure thanks him for his feedback. While introducing Seth, uses his first name, and Milchick steps forward and presents a new department called the Choreography and Merriment Department, and he takes the statue away as faint music begins to build, and suddenly a massive band of performers playing Lumen branded instruments march into MDR in sync. While Milchick reappears wearing a blue suit and he starts conducting the musical number. And they finish the performance by holding up printed posters of Mark and a little 100% title next to him, which forms a picture stretching the whole room when viewed from above. It's crazy. Also, everyone was guessing that they made this department just for like this performance, which means these innies exist only for band practice, which is crazy. Imagine this is your one purpose in life, is to perform this show for whoever completes Cold Harbor. And the rest of your life is just band practice. That's fucked up. Okay, let me show you the dance scene. This scene also was like, went mega viral everywhere. Did they finish it in this video? It's crazy. Yeah, the comments, the concept of an innie whose entire existence is just band practice. Okay, let me show the video. Yeah, this scene is great.
And now, lady and gentlemen of MDR, may I introduce Choreography and Merriment.
And Mark and Helly's face. They're like, what the hell is going on? I keep dragging the statue away while smiling.
Let's go.
The smile, the the let's go when the music starts. Oh my god. This show is peak. Go, Mr. Milchick! Dude, Mark and Helly are so confused. This is crazy.
Thank you, C and M. Let's keep the Mark S. love going.
I have to leave.
With
The
a
Mark
ballad
S
of
love
Ambrose.
is crazy.
I'm
Let's go. The turn. Yeah. Yeah. The moves. Look at him go.
You ready?
Yeah.
See you at the equator.
See you at the equator.
Aww. See you at the equator. See you at the equator. Aw. No. But yeah, so wasn't that so good? With all the theatrics, how does this company profit? The company owns like the world. They're fine. But yeah. It's crazy good, right? Oh my god. And then the like parallel with them marching and then Gemma marching down the hallway. So good. Their faces as they're watching him. And then the 100% Mark posters. It's so crazy. I've watched the dance scene so many times. It's so good. So yeah. That happens. They perform. At the same time, you saw Nurse Cecily leads Gemma through the testing floor towards the Cold Harbor room. Their work must be extremely important to be worth this much work. It is mysterious and important. And at the same time, Jamie exits elevator leading to a small room with a single console. And Dr. Moore talks over the intercom and tells him that the efficacy test will begin shortly. And he's like, what the hell does that mean? Anyways, so as you saw, Milchick grabs the conductor's baton and he starts leading the band into another number. And this one is called The Ballad of Ambrose and Gunnell. And there was like a ton of analysis stuff you can find online about how the title relates to the whole scene. I'm gonna see if I can find a quick one just to list it off. So, okay, blah 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 blah. Some short analysis is that the Ballad of Ambrose and Gunnell has a striking rhythmic and musical resemblance to the song "Bring Me My Bride," and it is that whole thing with how Mark has to deliver Gemma outside to Mark, basically. And yeah, it's like this whole thing. And then even while Mark was talking to him, because in the classic, a Roman military captain arrives demanding that the lower class bring him his bride, while vocalizing his opinions of how superior he is to them. And during the whole video recording scene, even though he didn't mean for it to, Mark really came off that way, like treating Mark as more trivial, saying Helly's name wrong, and it was very obvious that he was only trying to show Mark that he cared about him so that he could get Gemma back. So it's like this whole parallel of like how he treats the innies, and he expects them to like bring Gemma back to him. You can look it up yourself. It's a lot to look at and go through. The musical number itself is like a lot to break down. And if I find a good video, maybe we can watch it together. But I will continue recapping so that we can finish the episode. Where were we? Right, so he starts conducting this new number, and then Helly turns around and is like, "Are you ready?" Mark says, "Yes, I'm ready." It's obvious they're not, because who is ever ready to walk to the end of it all? And then Helly tells Mark that she will see him at the equator, and then he like nods and he's like, "See you at the equator," which is like a sad but also cute little thing. And then Helly runs and swipes Milchick's little cell phone for him. And then Mark makes a beeline for the hallways. And Helly leads Milchick into the toilets and traps him inside the toilet by holding the door shut. While Mark reads the directions on Irving's drawings and starts running. So then Dylan is now marching through the hallways. And then it cuts to Drummond ascending from the testing floor. And he leaves the exports hall, pausing for a moment before entering a hidden room in the walls directly opposite the export hall door. Nurse Cecily and Gemma over here. They reach the Cold Harbor room. So this is it. This is it. And then we see Lauren. Remember Lauren, the goat lady? She's back. We see Lauren pushing a cart with a lamb inside down a hallway. And then it goes back to Helly and Milchick. And Helly is desperately attempting to keep Milchick trapped inside the bathroom, but then she's knocked over. And just as Milchick is about to escape, Dylan suddenly rushes in and pushes a vending machine, wedging it into the toilet doorway and blocking Milchick again. So Dylan coming in clutch. And then it goes back to Gemma. She enters the Cold Harbor room and transitions into her new innie. And then her innie wakes up, and Dr. Moore's voice can be heard over an intercom in the room. And he tells her to come inside the room, and she goes inside, and she sees inside sits a baby crib. The same crib that Mark tore apart after Gemma's failed IVF treatments. Isn't that so sick and twisted? It's like ridiculously evil. So, we can assume her new innie is like, this room is her putting together the baby crib for like the baby she lost, and then also like the failed IVF treatments. Oh my god. Anyway, she approaches the crib, and Jamie watches from the console, like Gemma in the room. And Dr. Moore asks who she is, and in very usual, typical any way, Gemma doesn't know who she is. She's like, I don't know. So then we go back to Lorne, and now Lorne reaches the outside of the exports hall, where Mr. Drummond suddenly appears from the hidden room in the walls. And Lorne announces that the mammalian nurturables have brought an offering. And Drummond questions if it has verve and wiles, which Lorne confirms by saying that it is the strongest of its flock. So it's like, okay, so they take these like lambs as sacrifice, and hold on, let me search it up. But he asks her if it has verve and wiles, which I needed to look up. And in the context of Severance, it serves as a specific way to describe the qualities sought in a goat chosen for sacrifice. So verve is like enthusiasm, energy, and spiritedness, and wiles refers to cunning, cleverness, and the ability to use deceit or trickery, which is like not something you expect in a goat. But yeah, that's just how they judge it, I suppose. They're like, oh, does the sacrifice have verve and wiles? And Lorne is like, yes, it is the strongest of its flock. Hi, Sango! Yeah, Uchikawa model! Ah! The eyes go big, look. And it also cries. I've been caught up on season 2, so I'll be lurking. No worries! Look at my crying face. Me watching Severance. But yeah, thank you for the lurk. I will continue now. Just spoiler alert. Where was I? Right, so Drummond appears from the hidden room in the walls, and Lorne brings him a goat as an offering. And they enter the sterile and empty room where an engraved sarcophagus sits in the middle, and a captive bolt pistol hangs on the wall. And Drummond says the lamb will be entombed with Gemma, and that its spirit will guide her to Kyr's door. He grabs the bolt pistol and loads a cartridge and orders Lorne to give him the lamb's life. So, hold on a second. So this hidden room, so there's a sarcophagus? And, yeah, Gemma's not making it out alive after Cold Harbor. They're entombing her with the lamb into the sarcophagus. This is insane. God, this is sick behavior. They just snatched her off the streets. Oh my god. Anyways, so yeah, a lot to process there. And then, we're back in the room, Cold Harbor room. And Dr. Moore instructs Gemma to take the crib apart with nearby screwdrivers, which is even more messed up because I thought it was just gonna be like, oh yeah, you'll be putting cribs together. But no, it's like, oh, you'll be taking apart this crib over and over and over again. Which is like, yikes. It's like acknowledging the death of her baby, like the miscarriage and also the failed treatments over and over again. Like just taking this baby crib apart. Jesus. So then it switches to Milchick furiously pounding on the vending machine to free himself. And Helly starts asking all the band members for help, but like none of them help because, to be fair, their whole entire any existence is just band practice. So I don't see why they would do anything else. And then we see Mark S. running closer to the exports hall. And Mr. Drummond begins a ritualistic recital where he commits the animal to Kyr and his eternal war against pain. And then he hands the pistol to Lorne, who raises it to the little ram's head. And it's so sad because, okay, this like little lamb, great actor. Because when she raises it, the lamb's head like lifts up and it like turns and looks at her. And it's so sad. It's so sad. And So then it goes back to Mark. And Mark reaches the door to the export hall, but his key card is not accepted by the reader. So he attempts to break down the door by shoulder barging it. And then Lauren asks Drummond how many more lambs she must give. And Drummond tells her that she will give as many lambs as Kira calls for. And as she prepares to pull the trigger, the ritual is interrupted by the banging outside. So like the banging sound from Mark trying to break the door down. So Mark wedges himself in the doorway to like try and force it open. And then Drummond appears behind Mark from the hidden room. Mark nervously is like trying to play it off. He's trying to play dumb and leave. But then Drummond grabs him and like pins him against the wall. It's like really hard. Like I think the actor Adam Scott said like he got a concussion or something. Or like he almost did. I forgot exactly. But he like slams him against the wall. And they had to do it like over and over again for like several takes. But he slams him against the wall, pins him there, and starts clobbering Mark in the face and then tries to strangle him. And then Mark reacts by biting into Drummond's forearm, which helps him to escape from his grasp. And as Mark is trying to crawl away, Drummond catches him and kicks him in the face. Drummond catches him and then Mark kicks him in the face and tackles him onto the floor. And then Drummond is like trying to recover from it, and he violently flings Mark into the wall and stuns him. So this is the one where he swings him into the wall and Mark's head like hits the wall. I think that was the concussion one. I'm not sure. It stuns him, and then Drummond starts pinning Mark down and strangling him. And he chokes Mark to near unconsciousness until Lauren appears behind. And Lauren presses the pistol against Drummond's head, and she demands that there will be no more killing. And Drummond begrudgingly releases Mark. And then he suddenly swats the weapon away and confronts Lauren, and Lauren begins to fight him. And wow, goat lady! So Drummond punches her in the face. But Lauren rushes at him in like a rage and knees him several times in the stomach and then flings him to the floor. And then Mark holds him down by his tie while Lauren just starts wailing on him. And then she grabs the pistol and places it on Drummond's forehead. And Mark is like, wait, stop. Mark is like, stop, don't kill him. Mark is like, take him prisoner instead. And then we go back to Gemma in Cold Harbor. And she is disassembling the crib while Moore and Jamie watch eagerly. They're like super excited, which is really freaking weird, and they suck. And Dr. Moore reports that the barriers are holding and she feels nothing. And he remarks that the sight is beautiful because her whole like miscarriage and then like the treatments, the baby thing is her greatest like sense of grief. So they're like, oh, even taking apart a baby crib isn't doing anything to her. Like, they have completely, like, filed away her four tempers. So this is proof that, the barriers are holding. The barriers in Severance. And then Mark enters the exports hall with Drummond at gunpoint. He turns to Lauren and he thanks her, who in turn says that Emil thanks him. And then we find out that Emil is the little lamb's name. So Lauren, it's so sweet because like the goat people like raising these goats, like they really don't want them to die. You know, it was really sweet that Lauren was like, no, like I'm glad Emil's still alive. It's so cute. And they name all of them. So then Drummond and Mark enter the elevator to the testing floor as Mark continues to press the pistol against Drummond's neck. And he tells Drummond that once he changes to his Audi, Drummond will guide him to Gemma, but he is cut off mid-sentence by the activation, which transitions him into his Audi. However, the transition from innie to Audi made his body tense, because they kind of like seize a little bit when they turn. And because of that, Audi Mark, who I'll just refer to as Mark from now on, he's just in his Audi form now, accidentally, reflexively pulls the trigger, and he fires the metal rod straight into Drummond's jugular, and Drummond starts to choke on his own blood, while Audi Mark is covered in the blood squirting out the wound, and he's terrified and confused. And then as the doors open, Drummond collapses dead and falls between the doors, which is blocking them and then keeping the elevator open. So now you're like, oh shoot, because now the plan is like all messed up. Because Drummond was supposed to lead Mark to Gemma, but now they're screwed. Drummond is dead, and Mark is like disorientated because he just woke up as his Audi and killed someone. And he's like, what the hell is happening? So then, back at MDR, Milkshake is attempting to escape the toilet still by crawling through the thin opening above the vending machine. Helly grabs one of the band members' trombone and she whacks Milkshake in the face with it and then uses other instruments to fill the opening so he can't get out. Mr. Milkshake. No! And then, oh my god, that scene is crazy. And then now they're on the testing floor, and Mark is anxiously making his way forward, and he finds a testing room called Minsk, and then also passes Tumwater, which is like all the rooms they worked on. And then Milchik orders the choreography and merriment to return to their department, but Helly runs and she stands on top of the desk. And she starts telling the innies about Irving and how like they just killed him off and stuff. And then how Lumen plans to wipe out the whole severed floor. And she urges them to remember the friends that they lost to retirement. She begs for their help and presses them to step up and fight for their lives. And choreography and merriment, people just stand there like they're not sure what to do. And then it switches to Mark. Mark runs into Nurse Cecily, and he demands that she open the Cold Harbor room. She refuses, and the two begin wildly screaming at each other while Mark holds the bolt pistol towards her. She runs off screaming for Dr. Moore. Okay, this scene's kind of funny, but when I say they begin wildly screaming at each other, it is literally that. Like, he's like, take me! He's like, take me to Cold Harbor! He's like, open the door! And she goes, nah! And then he goes like, ah! And she's like, ah! And they're like screaming back at each other. And then when he holds like the pistol up, she like starts running. She's like, ah! She's like screaming for Dr. Moore. And then Mark tries to enter Cold Harbor, but he is rejected by the door's blood sampling security measures because he's not registered. So thinking quickly, Mark uses his tie, which is soaked in Drummond's blood, to fool the machine. And it detects Drummond's blood and the door successfully opens. And then they see each other again. He enters the room and he sees Gemma, but she's an innie, so she reacts defensively. And she holds up a plank of wood against him while Dr. Moore and Jamie watch in horror. And Mark begins to tell Gemma like who she is. He's recounting her identity to the innie and their marriage and how they like loved each other so much. And Dr. Moore over the speaker is ordering innie Gemma not to listen. And Mark starts pleading for her to come with him. And he's like, please just come back with me. I want to go back to the life we had together. And then she like looks at him a little bit. But something inside of her tells her to listen to him. And a lot of people were talking about this, like, is this the whole theme of love transcending Severance again? Because, like, something in her causes her to trust him. So she takes his hand, even if it's, like, a bit nervously. And Dr. Moore starts panicking and he calls for Drummond. And Drummond doesn't respond because he's dead. So Dr. Moore starts running off to the testing floor. Gemma's Innie pauses at the doorway. And she's like unsure about leaving the room. And then Mark lies to the Innie and tells her that she'll be okay after stepping out. And she trusts him. Because something in her just trusts him. So she steps out the doorway and kills that Innie. Yeah, it's crazy. There's so many like moral dilemma stuff in Severance. And then Gemma reawakens. And it's God, I don't know how to describe the scene. Like when Gemma wakes up and then she sees Mark's face, it is indescribable. Like the acting was phenomenal. And it like registers in her face that like it's Mark, right? And then she like it's so many emotions. It's like joy, it's like pain, it's so much. And then they reunite and they hug each other. And they're just like, show it, I will. And they're just like holding each other. But then they're interrupted by emergency sound across Lumen. And then Mark and Gemma start sprinting towards the exit together. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, I'll show you guys after this next part. So, at the same time, in MDR, Milchick hears the alarm going off and he braces himself and charges into the vending machine with great force. He eventually knocks it over and escapes from the bathroom, but he sees Dylan standing with the C&M, the band people, and they're all blocking him in defiance, and Helly is gone. And then it cuts to Mark and Gemma dashing through the testing floor as like red emergency lights flash around them. And they reach the final stretch where the elevator is like in sight now. But then Dr. Moore closes in from the adjacent hallway and he yells at Gemma to stop. They reach the doors and Dr. Moore is right behind them. And Mark hoists the dead Drummond's legs up so that the elevator can close. And as it's closing, Dr. Moore screams like, "You'll kill them all!" But it's too late to stop them, and then the elevator starts ascending. And he's probably referring to like all of Gemma's innies, because she's gonna kill all of them. But also like the severed floor people too. Like it's over for all of them. But yeah, it's too late. And as the elevator is ascending, Mark like pulls Gemma towards him and they share like a really loving kiss with each other. But then they go to the severed floor. So as they're kissing, immediately they both switch when they make it up the floor. And they transition to their innies like mid-kiss. And they're like so confused. And Miss Casey wakes up and she's like, "What?" This poor girl. Miss Casey sent to non-existence and then she's brought back for like 1 minute and Milchick is like, "No, go back." And she goes back and then she wakes up suddenly again. She's kissing Marquez. Anyway. So they're confused and Miss Casey is like, "What's happening?" And then Mark is cut off from answering her because of the alarms. So he just takes her hand and they begin running down the export hall and then out into the hallway towards the stairwell. And I'll show the reunion scene. La, 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 la. Oh my god, I just realized the music isn't playing. Okay. You're right. Okay, let's go. Him being soaked in Drummond's blood is crazy. I didn't notice, yeah. None of us did. I was too into it. seeing this as Mark. Holy.
It's okay. It's me.
Oh my god, and this is his first time seeing her again.
I'm your husband.
Aw.
I'm your husband.
Aw.
Okay. Your name is Gemma Scout. We've been married for 4 years. No. And we were... We had a life together.
Don't speak to that man. He's here to hurt you.
And if you come with me right now, we can get it back.
Aw.
No.
Stop.
Aw.
This is not a part of the test. Please, don't let him touch you.
We have to go.
Man.
Stop.
Oh, her hand.
Fuck. Mr. Drummond. Mr. Drummond! Damn! It's okay.
Aww. Yeah.
It's the fucking spouse! Call Drummond!
This scene is so funny. It's the fucking spouse.
Okay. You can come. It's okay. Come on.
Aw.
Come on out. It's okay.
Oh man. Oh, what the heck? Oh. And he's like covered in blood. He's like covered in blood, and she's just like, all she sees is him. She's like, oh Mark. Oh, was it the elevator? I wanted to see the elevator one. The one where it's Miss Casey. Never mind, they don't have it. It was really funny though. And Miss Casey looked so confused. Anyway, yeah, isn't that sad? Oh. So then, they're running down the hallway together. Mark S, his innie, and Miss Casey. And they reach the stairwell door. The same door that they were instructed to go to, and the same one, I believe, that Helly kept running through in season 1 when she wanted to leave. And Mark presses Miss Casey to go through the door first. He's like, go, like, go through. And she does. It's also just sad because Miss Casey just trusts Mark S too. And even when she... Yeah, Miss Kiss of a stranger. And even when she like came back that first time and she was trying to ask where... We don't know if she was trying to ask like, where's Mark? But the fact that she said where's, and then on the testing floor, Gemma wakes up and she says like Mark, it does seem like to a certain level degree, part of her stayed even with Severance, the part of her that like knows Mark or like loves him. Anyway, so Mark presses her to go through the door first. She runs through and she transitions into Gemma, and she's finally free from the severed floor. So she turns around and she starts yelling for Mark, and she yells at him and she says like, "We need to go, Mark, we have to go." But Mark steps forward and hesitates because at this point he stepped through like he's gone. It's just gonna be Outie Mark reunited with Gemma, but like what's gonna happen to him, right? He's not Outie Mark, so he hesitates at the door. He like doesn't know what to do. He doesn't want to go through, but he has to. And Gemma starts panicking because she realizes that the innie Mark like doesn't want to go, because that's not her Mark, right? So she panics and she's pleading for him to step through, but he's still unsure about what to do because he's grappling with the possibility of his own death, and that's not something you can do like in such last minute like circumstances. And suddenly Helly appears at the end of the hallway, which catches Mark's attention. And then Gemma looks like in and she's like really confused, and she's also crying because she just wants Mark to leave, but she knows that's not Mark technically. So Mark looks between the two of them and he's like really torn. He doesn't know what to do, and then he starts slowly backing away from the door. So Gemma starts screaming at him to just like come back as he's leaving, but because innie Mark doesn't feel like true love or loyalty to Gemma, and he is so scared to die, he's so fearful of his own non-existence, he quietly like makes the decision and he shakes his head and he stutters to Gemma an apology. He's like, "I'm sorry," and then he turns away and he starts marching towards Helly. And then they look at each other for a moment, and then he takes her hand and they both start running. And Helly turns around and she looks back at Gemma, like through the window, who is now like sobbing. Like she's collapsing against the glass. She's like sobbing because she's losing her husband again. And she knows it's like not his fault because that's technically not Mark. But it's just like, God, yeah, it's gut-wrenching. And it's the fact that he went through Severance in the first place because of losing her. It's like this whole process is just so messed up. So then Mark and Helly start running through the hallways together as the emergency lights blare and the sound is blaring. But they smile at each other, and despite everything that's happening, like they look genuinely really, really happy. And they reach a seemingly like endless hallway, and they share a moment of euphoric freedom together as they sprint deeper into Lumen. And that's how the finale ends. Yup. Yup. Yup, 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 yup. And I found this scene so sad. Not just because of Gemma, but because of the fact that like Helly and Mark S knew that they would die anyway at the end of the day, because he completed, like, if he completes Cold Harbor, they die, right? And it's like previously in the episode where Helly tells Mark, like, there was never a future for us, like there is nothing here, basically, for us. Let me see what she says exactly. Yeah, so previously when he was tearing up, innie Mark was saying he wants to live with Helly, and then Helly reminds him like, hey, there's no chance for us at living, right? Even if Cold Harbor's finished, they're dead. They're definitely dead now. After Mark kills Mr. Drummond, and then this whole thing's happening, right? So it's definitely over for them now. But it's the fact that innie Mark chose to live what little life he had for like whatever last 10 more minutes they have together, because this isn't him, like, how do I describe it? Like, they're gonna die anyway, right? But he chose to have like even just 10 more minutes with Helly, and that is so sad to me. It's like just 10 more minutes of freedom. Like, he would choose that just like 10 more minutes of freedom and happiness before he goes into non-existence. Like, he just wants it. It's so sad. The whole thing is so messed up. And the scene where they're running away together is also really well shot. Let me see if I can find it. But yeah, my girl Gemma, I'm so scared for season 3. Because at this point, what the hell can they do? You know? And I'm scared that Gemma's gonna be involved in the mess too. Cause she still hasn't left. I hope she makes it out. But at this point they're completely screwed. Like, what are they gonna do to work? Helena's gonna be fine. But like Helly, I don't know. Yeah, season 3 is gonna be even crazier. They just keep one-upping themselves. Helly and Mark. Run. I think it's this one. Yeah, okay, it's this one. It's so messed up. This is so messed up.
Like a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning.
Fuck this right now.
Like a snowball down a mountain or a carnival balloon. Like a carousel that's turning, running rings around the moon. Like a clock whose hands are sweeping past the minutes of its face. And the
It's so
world
sad,
is like an apple whirling silently in space, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind.
Like, they don't even know where they're going.
To a tunnel
They just
of
want
its
like these
own,
last few minutes.
down a hollow to a cavern where the sun has never shone, like a door that keeps revolving in a half-forgotten dream, or the rip
Also, the way it parallels him running through the hallways at the beginning of the season. Oh,
like a clock whose hands are sweeping past the minutes of its face, and the world is like an apple whirling silently in space.
yeah, it's literally just them running and running forever.
Never ending or
It's so sad, but they're like so happy, and it's so sad because you know they're not getting anywhere. They don't even know where they're going. They just want like the last few seconds of like freedom and happiness. It's so messed up. And then poor Gemma. Oh god. No! So yeah. That is Severance Season 2. Yay! But yeah, you guys should totally watch it. It's really, really, really good. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me see who's live right now. The ending is crazy. No, for real. I could not believe it. I was so upset when I saw the ending. But I thought about it afterward, and I genuinely was like, it is really fitting, and you can really, really feel like that desperation of choosing yourself. Like choosing yourself instead, because the innies have never had a sense of self, right? And even Audi Mark spoke to him like he was lesser than, like he wasn't even a person. And he's been doing all of this for his Audi. So it's like, at the last minute, he was like, I want to choose myself. Like, I want a life too, you know? Even if the life isn't going anywhere. It's not like they're gonna be together. He just wanted like the last few seconds of whatever time he could have for himself. And to feel that like happiness and freedom. And it's just the willingness to sacrifice so much just for like a little bit. It's like, oh my god. I love the recaps and Mr. Milkshake. Yes. God. Let me, let me show the... You know, now you guys can watch, Severance if you haven't already, and also the new Mission Impossible. Justice for Gemma. Yes, I know, that's so messed up. Gemma, my girl. Oh, I need Gemma to be happy. I'm so sad. I really hope season 3 is kind to her. I don't know about that. I don't know. Here's Mr. Milkshake in Mission Impossible. If you wanted.
You must be Captain Bledsoe. And you must be out of your mind.
He's so good. I love him. Go watch Mission Impossible. Yes, his lines in the movie are so good. You guys have to see it. You must be out of your mind. Hey, he speaks the same way that Milkshake does. God. Oh my god, someone in the comments said somebody screams Mr. Milkshake in the theater. I wish someone in my theater knew. But it was just me. When he showed up, because I didn't know he would show up, I like sat up in my chair. I was like looking around. I was like, it was crazy. God, what was that? I forgot what else he said. He was like, I love poking the bear. I think it was like the other thing he said. It was so funny. Should we watch the first dance scene from season 1 again? While I raid into another another stream. What was it called again in season 1? Oh, Music Dance Experience. That's what it was called. I forgot. The Music Dance Experience. That was crazy. Okay. We love Mr. Milkshake. Okay. Let me look for someone to raid.
The maraca.
The maraca.
Excellent choice.
Excellent choice.
Should have gone for the castanets.
Irving, I miss
choose
him.
Defiant Jazz.
Though this experience is in Helly's
Hi,
honor,
Hitsu.
I urge all the refiners to take advantage of the opportunity presented.
Oh yeah, and Dylan was crashing out. Look at him go.
Whoa, wow. Okay.
Irving! Mark's little awkward man dance. Yeah!
Uh-oh.
I really feel like Dylan tried his, not Dylan, Milchick tried his best. He really did.
What you got? Let's see it.
The move he hits here is so good. The little bird move. This is literally rage baiting. Oh my god! I never noticed him doing that in the back. The rage baiting. This is literally rage baiting. It's crazy. Okay, we're gonna raid cat stream because I'm tired. Stretch. I hope you guys enjoyed that though. It's so much fun recapping shows. And Severance is awesome, so I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. And honestly, Milchick tried his best. He was a pretty good boss, not gonna lie. With the circumstances, he's also trapped at Lumen. Like, what is he supposed to do? He tried his best. He really did. He really tried his best. Also, fun fact, apparently, the actor Tremel Tillman, he used to be in band, like in school. So, like that whole scene is like, he actually used to do that, like with the baton and stuff like that. So that was like all him. The amount of me chatting is wild in the recap. I appreciate it though. I appreciate it. I like having the back and forth, so I really appreciate it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. The finale ending is definitely something that keeps you like reeling for a bit. Yeah. I'll see you guys on Wednesday, I think. Yeah, Wednesday.